2, 3, 2.
We're gonna pause just a second for the other member to get seated and we'll move right into.
Mic on.
Yep.
Hey, Grady.
Mr. Woods?
Thanks for joining. Hey, good to see you.
All right, once he gets his feet under him. All right, we're gonna go ahead and call the Historic District Review Board meeting for Wednesday, May 13th, 2026 to order. We have minutes to review, and then we have a consent agenda item. We'll put it on the table and we'll discuss. That'll be item 1, and we have a fairly long list of projects. Hope everybody can hear me out there.
It's you from the past.
Are we good over there? Okay.
Send yourself a message from the future.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into the review of minutes for April 8th, 2026, which I was not here, so I will be recusing myself. And this is for the board.
I sent some clerical changes. The only thing that's not clerical on page 4 of the minutes. Let me see. I don't know what page that is overall. I think it's page 8 overall, but page 4 of the minutes at the top where it says motion. Mr. Berman made a motion. You see that? So that was actually Mr. Woods made that motion. And then I believe it was for, I made a note, that was for conceptual approval.
Any other changes to the minutes as they're written? Give you a second. Any down here? Okay, we'll call the question for approval. Approval,
Yep.
approved?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 1 abstention and approval of the minutes for that meeting. All right, we'll go ahead and move into the consent agenda item. We'll need a motion to bring that on the table for consent. Get one made.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Okay, so now we'll be able to discuss the very first item. We'll have staff go ahead and introduce, tell us what we're doing and how it relates to the Bailey bill.
I mean, if it's on the consent agenda, if you don't want discussion, you can just approve it right now. You want discussion.
Yeah, we approved it. We want the consent agenda.
You want to discuss it.
I believe we don't even have to discuss it. We could just approve it, but
You can just approve it and then it's approved.
Right.
that's what's the consent agenda.
But we have pictures. We can talk about it. It's really up to you.
Well, I think, look, this is important to understand fully what we're doing. I get it's a consent agenda. We could approve it as actually post facto because the project's already been completed. The question really is, do we understand the Bailey bill? Is it appropriate to apply it in this particular application? I think we all probably agree it's a very good program. If you guys don't want to debate or discuss or learn anything about it, we'll move right on.
Let's move along.
Here, we move on. Okay, so we'll approve and maybe we'll have a discussion at the end if any of the audience members are a little confused about what that was, what the Bailey bill is. I think it's important that the public understands it fully because we're going to have more of these coming forward. Thank you. All
Okay.
right, so we'll move on to,
Approved.
is it approved? Yes.
Approved.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into the meat of today because it's going to be a fairly decent meeting.
All right, good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Christopher Clement, Planner 3 with the City of Beaufort. First new agenda item, well, not so new. 811 Congress Street. The applicant is Larry Holman. This project, this is the 3rd time that this is coming in front of you. This time the request is for final approval. At the last meeting, which was in December of 2025, you granted Mr. Holman conceptual approval with some conditions. Just to kind of recap this project, so the location of 811 Congress Street. As you can see on the slide here, it is within the Old Commons neighborhood of the Historic District of Beaufort. It is currently a vacant lot. There was a once one-story frame dwelling that was demolished in 2014. So the application is to construct a two-story, two-unit dwelling, so a duplex with separate living quarters on the first and the second levels, as well as a carriage house in the back. The zoning, as you can see, is T4HN for historic neighborhood. The site plan reads like this. So it's a corner lot. It's located on Congress and West Street. The main dwelling will face Congress Street to the south. The detached carriage house / garage with habitable space above is going to be facing West Street. So there's going to be that drive from West Street.
Can I get yours to work?
Just to kind of recap what we're looking at, this is the main dwelling as revised. We've been through several meetings before. The final renderings kind of show very nicely that this already has been approved in December. The concept of the design, the 3-bay concept with a front porch and or / balcony on the second floor. One of the items on the decision letter from your last meeting was, and that's mentioned in comment number 4, was that the applicant should provide for some screening details on how the HVAC, the mechanical equipment on the ground floor and the first floor there would be screened. The current maps show this actually very nicely. Can you see my laser pointer? So this here is the screening of the HVAC mechanical equipment, which are basically on the southeast. So they're on the corner, around the corner. This is what the enclosure, the screening panels would look like in detail, just to kind of give you that information. So basically condition number 4, staff recommendation of, or that was 5, excuse me, applicant has shown therefore how the HVAC units and mechanical equipment would be screened under the staircase, which leads up to the second floor entrance of that second unit above. Here you can see that on the east elevation as well. This is where the mechanical equipment would be situated, okay? Just going through again, the different elevations on the north. This is basically the back, the rear side of the main house, the dwelling here. The west elevation facing West Street. This is the garage / carriage house with a 2-bay garage, double entrance there. Staircase leading up to that whatever you would call it, living space above. So one of the main items that we talked about in December when this was in front of you is for the applicant to basically come back with some color choices for exterior paint colors, since that was not provided at the last time, okay? So we're talking colors for siding as well as the roof. So these 3 green colors on the right-hand side are basically choices number 1, 2, and 3 for the siding, which are Restful, Lounge Green, and Relish. The onyx color in the box is the applicant's choice for the roof color, okay? This overview on this page shows also the windows. Colors of the frames would be white, The double single doors on the exterior would have a ebony wood finish, sustain color. Garage doors would be white, columns would be white, railings would be matte white. The decking is a clamshell, which I will show you in a second, is like a more darker walnut brownish color. Then the ceiling, well, ceiling fans are black. Siding colors, I just showed you the three options. The trims would be white as well, and the stucco would be tricorn black. Next to the colors, the second recommendation was to provide for specification sheets, or we call them cut sheets, on different materials, including the roofing. So this slide shows you what the applicant has provided us, which is it's similar to a 5V metal crimp roof. It's called Gulf Rib from Gulf Coast. So this would be the roof material. The windows would be Anderson 100 series windows, which are single hung. They're made out of what they call Fibrex. It's a composite material between recycled, reclaimed wood fibers and basically PVC, synthetic plastic components. And in my staff report to you, you should have the specifics on the count and, if they're single, if they're paired windows. That was in the staff report. So there's a bunch of these different kinds of windows that I've listed in the staff report to you. The next slide will show you the exterior door specifications that were provided. So we're talking single, we're talking double doors. The first floor main entrance door is a double door. The second floor balcony as well is a twin door. We've got some single doors on the upstairs entrance door to that second unit that I showed you before. They're basically all fiberglass, made out of fiberglass. And as I said, stained with this wood finish ebony color that you can see on the bottom right. The garage doors, this is going to be this specification sheet in the middle here. It's a steel, so the material is steel doors. They don't have any windows or anything like that. It's a classic door stuff for a garage in white. So I'll give you that. Columns are yellow wood, 8x8 in white. The railing is going to be a TimberTech vinyl railing material, as you can see here, in white. The decking on the balcony and so forth is going to be this Trex enhanced composite material. The clamshell color is actually highlighted here, if you can see it. We do have two different siding types. So underneath the gables, they have something that's like a cypress shingled fall cedar shake, as you can see here on the bottom left. And then they have the horizontal lap siding, hardy plank siding for the remainder of the house, the main house, as well as the garage. The color choices, again, were the three that I showed to you in the beginning. One of the other conditions next to providing cut sheets, colors, and details on the screening was to label the plans accordingly. So any materials like windows, doors, and so forth are to be labeled within the plan set. Now, I do believe you have the plans in front of you. Some of the materials are labeled, some of them are not. Really depends, but overall, together with the plan set and the specification sheets, this is what we received, okay? And that's basically it. So those were the remaining items that we had requested for today's, for Mr. Holman coming in front of you to finally get his final approval from you. If we look at, we always do when we're talking infill development at these 7 integrity guidelines, number 1, location, 2, design, 3, setting, material, workmanship, feeling, and association. They've come a long way. Basically, the design fits in very well. It fits into the neighborhood as well as the historic district. I think we've discussed that before when you granted him conceptual approval, the overall design checks out, right? One of the decisions for you today basically are the colors and the specific material, the specific choices for materials. For instance, the vinyl railing is something that we would maybe not see, but that's really up to you, okay? The cementitious siding should have a smooth finish. That's something that we always request every single time. What we would also like to see, and this can be provided to staff administratively, are typical construction details within the plans for the actual permitting, like window, head, sill, jamb, foundation to siding, detailing, as well as maybe some building sections that could be highlighted by their, the structural engineer or whoever they may want to hire for that. The Gulf roof type is a roof type that staff does not really support. We would recommend either replacing this kind of roof type with a 5V or a standing seam metal roof type. It's something that, if you look at it, seems to be something that you may want to use maybe on a barn or a shed in maybe a more agricultural environment, rather than in historic within the district of Beaufort. And with that, do you have any questions so far?
Nothing for staff at this point. We may
All right,
get into that.
sure.
If you're done with your presentation, we'll open it up to the applicant to tell us what they're trying to do, if there's any changes from what you said. Mr. Holman, if you'd like to tell us in summary what you're thinking. If you have no comment, that's fine. We'll open it to public comment after that.
Thank you. In summary, we addressed what the board wanted the last time. And now we just want to move forward with whatever other suggestions that you guys may have. It's been about a year, almost 2 years for me. And the project is going up, not down. So, but anyway, I just wanted to bring this to fruition.
Okay.
If you may. Oh, I was waiting for them. Any concerns you guys have that?
No, we'll have a chance to get you back up when we get into a
Okay.
discussion at the board level, but we have to get through public hearing first. We just want to make sure you have a chance to tell us anything different or change based on what you heard from staff.
Okay, as far as the vinyl railing, I will go with the stick, wood.
Okay.
I would go with that,
Okay,
rather than the vinyl.
sure.
And there was, the garage door will be smooth. Smooth and white. What else was there?
So there's the reveal on the plans, and the reason why we didn't put things on the plans was because we didn't know if it was approved or not. We didn't want to put things on the plan. put things on the plans and then not, and then take them off. But the hardy plank, the reveal, the one that we gave you says 7.25. And on the spreadsheet and on the plans, it's 6, but you want to go with the
Wanna go
7.
With the 7.
So that's different. But as far as like the findings and recommendations, number 1, of course, I'll have to provide the typical building sections. That's fine. Number 2, the typical sections, window sills, that's fine. The steel garage doors will not have a wood grain finish, as Mr. Holman said. The hardy shingle siding does not come in a smooth finish. That we may need some assistance with, or if you say no, we'll need to do with something else. He will do number 5, the railings in wood. And then number 6 is the main one that we would like y'all to discuss.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, we're going to open the floor up to public comment at this time. Do we have anybody on the internet?
No, sir.
Okay, anybody in the public like to speak about this project? Ms. Sunderland from HBF?
Good afternoon. How is everybody?
Good.
Good. You have a long day ahead of you, so I know you want to get through this quickly. I want to commend Mr. Hallman for going through the details with HTRC and coming back and going through this process. I think that the modifications that he's made to the building have assisted in minimizing the size, but I do think that from the board's perspective and from Historic Beaufort Foundation's perspective, we're seeing more and more of these large scale buildings that are coming in for review for infill within the historic district, and mainly within the old commons. We've seen a lot that have been coming through. So again, I just think we need to just be aware of that and aware of the location where these are going and the sensitive nature of the street front and the buildings that are surrounding it. One thing that had been a discussion of this board early on when the large scale structure was proposed to go across from Washington Street Park, the thought was that, well, it's a corner property, and we do see in the guidelines that corner properties do have prominence, and that gives some, importance to having a larger building at the location. I think as we go forward looking at designs, perhaps it's more in the massing and then the overall scale and the voids to non-voids, because you start seeing the large blank walls that are happening with a lot of these buildings. But I think the West Street elevation is very successful. I think he's done a good job with that. So I agree with the other staff comments and have heard what how they're willing to address those. I don't know of another product that's cementitious to be able to provide the shingles that they're looking for, but perhaps Metters has a recommendation with regard to that. With regarding the color, it's hard to understand how those colors will look on that building, and it might be a good idea to approve the colors at a later date once there has been a section painted as an example on the building. Perhaps that might be one way to do that, and that could be done by the board and or staff looking at it. They could come off very bright and kind of neon, and you don't really, want that necessarily to happen. But there are instances of buildings, older buildings that do have similar shades of green throughout the district. Hard to say when that paint was put on some of those buildings. So I don't want to discount it, but I think it would be good to actually see it on there so that y'all could get a real life comparison with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sunderland. Any other public comment? Mr. Smith is approaching the podium.
Good afternoon. 1107 West Street, Jeremiah Smith. I'm the neighbor to the north, so look forward to seeing you more and your son and your grandkids. I'd just want to encourage you to keep the quality of new construction high. I've seen a couple projects, specifically 710 Bladen, where I think we've dropped the ball. So just want to keep that level of detail high. And I think it's all about the details and those materials. So, but I'm in favor of everything else and the scale and the form. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If there's none on the internet, don't see any, we'll go ahead and close the public comment and bring it up to the board for review. And you've heard staff, you heard the applicant, look like we're boiling this down to maybe one or two items on the staff report that are still outstanding. I think that would be item 6, it's outstanding. They pulled number 5. And I believe they've handled everything else. Anybody concur with those thoughts?
I'll start off. There's a few questions. I don't know if there's answers or maybe I misheard. Regarding the railing, I know the applicant said that they were willing to do wood. I know that previously new infill projects have approved AZEK and TimberTech products for the rail. Now, those were a composite. They weren't necessarily a vinyl. But I've seen multiple examples in even the preservation district where AZEK has been approved. Now, once again, I know it's not the same as vinyl, but it's pretty close. They said they're willing to do wood. My 2 cents is I just wouldn't necessarily want to limit them. If they want a different product, I think maybe something like this could be allowed. So that's thought number 1. Number 2, I heard it sounded like they were fiberglass and steel doors, but that we wanted to stain them. Did I understand that correctly? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So we want to stain fiberglass and steel doors.
Yeah, if it could be done.
Okay.
Yeah, we're basically doing a faux paint job on them.
Yeah.
Which is.
Yeah.
which is good
I'm
enough.
apprehensive of that, but okay. So that would be my second point. I saw that there are plenty of examples in the presentation that we got of other homes with green siding. I'm not opposed to green siding as a rule. However, colorful sidings on a swatch look very different on a swatch than they do on a giant mass. I looked at the colors, the number 1 choice, and my first thought was that's going to be way bolder than you think once it's on a giant mass. That doesn't necessarily give me too much heartache. What does give me a little bit of heartache is a super black roof and a super black stucco. It's going to look like an ice cream sandwich. That's what it's going to look like. So I don't know that I'm okay. And usually I'm not the person that's opposed to colors. I'm usually probably the most open person to colors. I'm very concerned about both the roof and the stucco being black. I think there's plenty of examples of roofs being black or a dark charcoal. The stucco is a lighter color. I don't know that I could get behind both being black.
Can I interject here? I just want to refer back to an approval on painting for historic, in the historic area of last fall, where we approved the house on Craven. That was a green. It had Charleston green, which is almost black, stucco bottom, black roof. I drove by to look at it. I looked at this swatch because it's not really this color. You know, you cannot go by a copy or an online photograph to see the color. Go by Sherwin-Williams and look at the color. And you're right, it's going to be different, but we approved that color combo in the fall.
Was that the one that you guys had them paint and then you went
Yep.
to?
Yep.
Okay.
And I went and looked at it, and it's bold. I was the only dissenting vote on that project. But it got approved.
Remember, that project sits in a street called the Painted Ladies. It's a little
Yes.
bit different setting, but it's still valid point you're making. Obviously, this is a discussion for the board, so let's talk to each other about this and make sure we get to where we need to be. There's the Sherman-Williams samples.
And that's the tricorn is is the proposed stucco. The roof is an onyx, which looks like a very black.
Right.
Yeah, we heard from staff. I mean, if you have considerations of paint color, we need to kind of figure out where we're going with this for this particular board. It'll change over time, but you heard staff's recommendation or HBF's suggestion and what staff that, if we were to have a problem with color at this point in the game, the option would be to approve it without color and do the same thing we did on Craven Street to say, apply some, let us look at it. Now, that process is not fully developed. And in this particular case of the project that she speaks to, wasn't well invested by HDRB, for example. It didn't come back to us as a formal discussion, and it carried through, right? So I share your concerns, the colors. I've tried to stay out of the color selection process, but what Milner reads and says is you should not be doing things that bring attention to itself. That's the difference. If you look at the fabric of the neighborhood, Milner's concept was that there is some combination of the fabric colors in Beaufort that are common, and you should not go far beyond that, or you draw attention to yourself. So I kind of feel the same thing to you, that these particular colors, even though they've been used in the environment, because of that setting, that corner block, it's going to stand out, right? And the more muted color palette may be appropriate, but we have to decide as a board and as a city, what is it that we are tolerating? What will we accept? And, Miller is just a repair guideline, and we use it as a tool for understanding our historic context. So what is it we want? Do we, as a board, we have to make this decision. We can approve this project, let them go and go through construction process and have a stop period at the end, and a future board probably, because some of us won't be here by the time this project's done. I know there's some reappointments coming up, but bottom line is somebody's gonna have to take a good look at a color sample if we tell them to do that and make it process work.
Because that was my argument in the fall, is that, it should not stand out from all the other houses on the block.
Well, that street right now is mostly white houses, and it,
Yeah.
disrepair and all kind of, there's not,
Right.
there's a lot of, degradation on the houses that are in that area. This is a kind of a fresh shiny penny when it gets finished, and it's gonna really set the tone for the rest of the homes there.
I do. So I think when you're referring to the Craven House.
Yep.
The value of that green was so much darker than what he's presenting that it wasn't so much of a contrast with the black or the Charleston green. However, in this scenario, I think that the black roof, you said an ice cream sandwich. I'm just thinking there's going to be so much contrast. It's going to hello, I'm a roof.
And the stucco.
And the stucco.
Also be
Right,
black, yeah.
but that could also be hidden by landscape.
That's true.
So I wonder if there's any sort of play with the color of the roof. I did notice that all the photographs that you showed us of the different colors,
And here's a couple of houses with black tin roofs.
but the majority of the ones that you showed us did not have dark roofs like that. So, the color was there, but it, I don't remember that one.
That one was not included, but that also is not a green side with a black stucco.
Yeah, look, the public can't see that, so let's just be cautious a little bit about how we using technology. That could have been in your presentation, but I get it. And there's no doubt that we have dark roofs in the city of Beaufort, in historic, there's no doubt.
Right.
So you can't question the onyx being a color.
Right.
It's all of it together that's being discussed.
Well, that's what the board's job is. That's not our job, is to make a determination. If you feel reluctant, you don't vote in support of it. If you support it, you support it. If you have an alternative way to handle it, you handle it that way. So we have an option. I'm hearing enough dissent related to these colors that said we should be cautionary, period, right? Yes, sir.
Well, I'd like to add to the profile. I think as noted by staff, that profile is not appropriate for that application. I think that's more of an agrarian or
Well, we'll get in
farm-based.
You talk about the roof?
the
The
material
the roof
itself.
Yeah.
the roof profile itself
yeah.
versus a 5B or standing seam. So in
We gotta
addition
get
to
to
the
that
colors, I
part.
think unless there's some precedent that we have to adhere to, I don't think that profile should be approved in that area.
Well, we're talking about color, but you're right on the
Well,
money.
I'm
We
talking
gotta
about
get- We gotta
context.
get to the.
Well,
material.
no, you talk about, I'm saying in addition to the color, I think the profile, that particular roof.
So let's have that discussion about profile, but let's close on the color issue. We can
Well,
make.
I'll finish. I think what Lisa said, I think, and hopefully we should maybe even set this as a precedent. As we did before, I think when you have a controversial color, if you deem it to be controversial, there ought to be a mock-up on site that's then reviewed on site and approved or not. And that would take away a lot of this unknowns, if you will, because we're dealing with, one color swatches or small color samples, not in the context, not in the application, not in the sunlight. And I think if we could, have that, or if the applicant would agree to that, I think that'd go a long way in either allaying some of these concerns or reinforcing these concerns.
And I think it doesn't slow down permitting. So there's, saying we're holding off on colors doesn't do anything to slow down construction. You could still apply for a construction permit tomorrow,
The
colors
roof- The
pending.
roof color, we'll get to the profile
Yeah.
and then finish that conversation.
Oh, but you can get
But even still, you can say roof, metal roof type TBD, you'll still get a building permit. So even that won't slow you down in terms of construction.
Okay.
I just feel we need to be consistent. When the other house came before us, they presented the colors, we were all in disagreement. So we agreed to let them do a swatch. We went to view it, or I went to view it.
I don't even think I was
We
here for that.
approved it, or it got approved. We didn't approve it because it didn't come back to us.
Well, we asked staff
But-
to do it. All right.
But yeah, so I think we need to stay consistent in fairness to people who come before us.
Correct, but also certain styles of architecture call for different color schemes too, so we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
If we're looking at a Victorian home,
Correct.
so I
Correct.
don't know where
Tanner.
you
All right, look, I've heard enough about the color to understand that the board's not going to support this color on this application. So let's hold that, just park it aside, because there's no motion for approval or denial at this point, right? And we have another topic we need to discuss related to this, which is the profile of the metal. That is a staff concern. It's a concern for a couple of members. And the reality is Milner, our guidelines does not preclude that particular style. It doesn't go that far. What it speaks to is that flat panels are generally more in keeping with the traditional fabric of roof metals in Beaufort. And that's because the tenure metal that was used back in the day didn't have the standing seam profile like this. In fact, the 5V roofing material was not really, in fact, Milner speaks to primary structures in historic fabric should not be using these type of material. However, it does conclude that new modern materials, it may be more appropriate. Now, is this a modern home or is this a historic house? Right? So you can look through the district and you can see that what has crept into our fabric is metal roofs of different types, primarily 5V, which we now accept as an appropriate metal. However, Milner says it should only be used on outbuildings, not on primary structures. So here we are in this, we see in this creeping. I'm in agreement. This is the wrong roof for the district, in my own
Say
opinion.
that again, you do or do not
I
agree?
do not accept this roof as appropriate for the district because it is not a standard material we see. We've allowed 5V to creep in enough to where it's established itself, in my opinion. In fact, the neighbor, Mr. Smith's house right next door, has a 5V standing seam metal roof on it in a Galvalume color. The rest of the roofs in that neighborhood are predominantly asphalt shingle.
Yeah.
So you don't see from that location, you don't see metal roofs except for Mr. Smith's and his Galvalume 5V. So this would stand out. This type of roof material actually screams at you when you drive by and look at it. I mean, it stands out. And in black maybe less noticeable, but it's, a concern, so. So on the roofing, anybody have any comment other than what I just said related to the metal?
No, I agree with you and Mr. Woods regarding.
Looks
the-
very utilitarian.
Yeah.
Right, so we can, when we get to a motion part of this conversation, it's really gonna say either we disapprove the roof metal, they're gonna have to get, and we have to either allow staff to accept the 5V alternate, or we have to get the applicant to change it today.
Well, I think some of the staff recommendations incorporate that. So we could just accept like number 5, where the staff says they're not supportive of that, but they would be supportive of a 5B. So I think some of the staff recommendations, we could
Use that
give
as a,
approval and just accept some of the staff recommendations. I think I'm good with most of the staff recommendations. I think I would add a condition that colors are not approved at this time and they would be approved on site. I'd make that based on what the HBF's recommendation, I thought was a good recommendation. I would strike 5. I would actually be okay if they wanted to do the timber tech.
well, let's have that conversation about vinyl in a minute.
Okay.
We got through the color, we kind of know what we're gonna do there, we got through the roof panel, I think we know what we're gonna do there.
Yep.
Does anybody agree that the railing is a topic worthy of discussing? I mean, he said he'd do wood, so maybe it's a
Oh.
dead,
Yeah.
it's a dead issue, but it's creeping in now. Is it appropriate or not appropriate? I know our company just did a project with this exact material, not in the historic district, and it does seem synthetic, it does feel, it's shiny, it doesn't really look, doesn't feel historic, and that, maybe it doesn't need to in a new construction, right?
The AZEK is more matte versus the
Yeah.
vinyl, so I could see that argument.
I could agree with the AZAC or the wood.
Okay, so
Not
AZEK or
vinyl.
wood, but so maybe we keep 5. Keep 5 as a condition, which basically says no to vinyl, use wood or some alternate, which they already agreed to.
Right. And then one thing that we got to remember is that new materials increasingly have not lasted the test of time, and that particularly in wood products. And so that we are having to accept the fact that we will be using synthetic railings, balustrades, columns. We've been using fiberglass columns for a long time, but vinyl is making its way, back in as well. So there will be a day where we're going to have no choice whatsoever other than it is what it is, what they're presenting for material choices, because it's just the way it's going to end up. But, so I think I agree with you, sir, that, number 5, if we just left it alone, it'd probably meet the need.
Sure.
And if they make a choice to use wood, that's okay too.
Do we want to talk about the shake?
The shake on the gable?
Yep.
Yeah, that was, it's interesting. I'd like to comment on that. The reality is the shake, you could probably get it in a flat, but is that the reason? Because Milner doesn't want you to use synthetic wood?
Well, yeah, what's the origin of that?
Milner spoke to synthetic materials that replicate wood but are not wood, and they didn't like that. So they
Oh,
basically,
why?
because they wanted the material to read and feel what it is, not what it's not. In other words, it's not wood. Why has it got to read as wood? If it was flat siding, it'd look like a flat, smooth sanded plank, right?
Except that when we're talking about new infill windows, we want them to have divided lights that simulate old true divided lights. So in contrast to that logic, in some areas, we don't want things to read as things that they're not, but in other areas we do. So,
I get it.
yeah, I don't,
You could
I know
say-
that's not your logic. I know that's what its logic is.
Right.
Oh, you
I'm just saying, I don't know that I buy it.
I mean, you could put real wood shake up there. I mean, what's the purpose of that? I mean, up high like that, it may last the test of time. I mean, you don't have to use a synthetic, right?
Sure.
So you could say, well, if you want to do shake siding, use real wood.
There's gotta be other cementitious, Ply Jam, there's other companies that make cementitious
flat.
siding.
There's
Yeah,
gotta be a
there's
flat
gotta
one
be.
available.
I would
In fact,
imagine.
you don't even have to use the shake, the way they're doing it, you could cut that out of siding panels and make it. You don't have, and do it flat. You don't have to do the shake panel. It comes in like a 5-piece.
Right,
strip,
right.
And then you cut it to fit. You could actually do the old school method where you make and shake, if that's really what the problem was. I don't know that this is really a problem, but we've been clear and we've pressured a lot of people over time to keep the cementitious siding flat.
Hmm.
And I don't see how we would transcend and allow another type of not to be.
Right.
So
So perhaps we just keep that condition in there as well.
Yeah.
And then they can find another vendor that provides a flat or an alternate solution.
Correct.
I don't. The staff recommendations to me seem fine. My only thing that I would add is that we hold off on a color.
So it's not like we've narrowed it down colors. Anybody else on this particular project have anything else that's
I have
on
one.
mind?
So the staff, when they were talking about the railing, it wasn't really about the actual materials as much as it was about, they're saying that the bulky top rail support is too much. But I can't see from the picture what that even looks like. So I'm just curious as to what that does look like and what will it
But
look like?
They had some outlines in that packet of what it looked like right there. There you go.
Photo is not,
This one right there on
Oh,
the
there's-
screen, where the
There it
top
is.
rail attaches to the post, I think is what they're talking about.
the detail.
But I think if they're not gonna go with that product, then it's not gonna have that anyway.
But if they do, it will.
But I think we're adopting the condition.
Yeah, we put one in, that particular application is not even required, that little clip-on ring.
Yeah, I know. Like,
There's actually an attachment where you can caulk the joint and not have that bulky piece. So that, just for any future applicant, that's the components they sell, but that's not necessarily what you have to use.
Yeah, I think it's a little much.
Okay.
So maybe can be considered.
All right, look, we spent some time on this one. Mr. Holmes been here a few times. I think you guys should
prepared.
have a handle on this, right?
I'll make a motion.
All right, sir. And if we're ready, let's get a motion.
I'll make a motion to give final approval with staff recommendations and that add a 7th condition that the colors are not being approved at this meeting, and that we would like to see a sample on site at a later date as a precursor to giving approval for the colors specifically.
Does that include the roof or just the siding?
The roof, the siding, and the stucco.
If I may, could you maybe
May not.
clarify that the HDRB needs to approve that? Because I think that was the issue before.
Sure. So I'll modify what I just said to include that 7th condition is that the HDRB would need to approve those color selections at a future date.
Second.
Yeah, we have motion and a second on the floor. Now we can debate that motion just a little bit, meaning, all right, process. Now we've got it to where they'll paint a color on, HRB's got to see it, right? Before staff can approve it. How do y'all want to execute that? Staff is going to do what so that we can do what to get back to them?
Last time they emailed us all and gave us a time frame to go by and see it.
I don't want to do business by email.
But I mean, we went to the site to
I
look
thought
at it.
that was a little awkward, I have to say. I mean, I did go by.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I felt like I was kind of invading their privacy. But I think we should go see it if we're going to do this.
Well, that's
I
the point.
did.
I want to make sure that because staff doesn't want to have this handed to them without the review of some sort. We have to make the decision, whether it's in a formal meeting. I don't want them to have to come back for a paint choice
Right.
selection. So we'd have to have get an approval from us somehow. And whether we individually come back in and tell staff, we check the box,
Yep.
I think the applicant has something to say if we want to allow them.
Sure, let's close this out somehow.
I just want to make sure that I have all this down. So on number 5, yes, we said we would use wood, but when Eric was talking about that alternative, could we use that alternative?
Zach,
Yeah,
I think.
I'm okay.
but
with
that's
it.
not in the, that's not in the motion.
Well, it says, the condition is that it's not supportive of vinyl and that the staff in the presentation said an example is wood. I think my interpretation is that the board is also okay with AZAC because that's been a previously
Okay.
approved material.
All right, I just want to,
Yep.
be clear
So
about.
that's an alternative that I think would be good. I'm speaking for me.
I agree.
Okay.
All right, so let's nail down this process if you're gonna make this motion fly. Because it's easy to say, put paint on the color and then we'll approve it or disapprove it. How are you gonna do that?
Well, I mean, if you want, I'll just spell it out for everybody and then they can just do what I say. So at the time the applicant's ready to paint, they will notify the city that within 2 weeks, they will paint a section that's at least 4 feet wide by 10 feet tall, the colors that they want. And within 2 weeks after that, every member of this board will have to go to the site and see it. And then within 2 weeks of that, they will have to provide whether or not they agree or disagree to the city, either in person, with a written affidavit or via email.
How does staff feel about that?
A lot of time.
Yeah, that's a lot of time. I mean,
Okay.
I can make a decision right there on the spot. Whether I like
I'm
it or
just,
not.
I'm just throwing something out there, destroy it, and we'll
Two, so we need three of us to approve it?
Yeah,
Yeah, you need 3 to prove it.
1, 2?
make it within
Gentlemen.
48 hours of each
I'll be
event.
glad, if I'm still on the board, I'll be glad to go down there and look at it. No
Let's just do
problem.
that.
We just need to execute it.
I would also suggest that perhaps,
Special meeting, is that what you're suggesting?
What?
We schedule a special meeting on site to,
We could do a special meeting on
Well,
site. So within,
Well,
within,
maybe shortening
within 1
it
week
to-
of them painting,
maybe shorten the time, 1 week.
sure, make it 1 week. Within 1 week of them painting, we
Majority
do
of
a
the
special
members.
meeting on site,
I'm okay with that.
at least a
Yeah.
quorum decided right then and there.
All right, that's
So
that's
1
an
week, 1 week.
important step. All right, so we understand the process.
Speak to that?
Yes, ma'am.
I would just because of our discussion today, maybe encourage him to get a lighter value of that color that he likes so much. So that it's a little less bright, just because I think if it goes up and we're all like, it would be nice to have something a little more subtle.
Yeah, I would, on top of that, add that I know we're killing a dead horse, even more dead, but even just a charcoal roof with a light color stucco would probably do a lot to help your case, and would match every other picture you sent us. So I'll throw that out. But okay, so we made the motion, we discussed it some. Mr. Chairman, what else would you like us to do?
No, we got a motion, and a second on the table. That was kind of debate of the motion. If the board's okay with the motion, we have, yes, sir, Mr. Holman.
I got a question. The color of the roof and the siding are in question that you guys want to be in agreement on. Did somebody say something about charcoal gray?
I just said something about charcoal.
Okay, what do you think? Charcoal gray? Would that work? Then we'll do the siding because,
No,
but the roof is gonna have to be oiled.
right.
So the tin roof, I have to order that.
Okay, so look, we got 2 ways to do this. The motion fails, and we just not support of the color period, right? And then they have to come back and start again. That's how it works.
I thought we also didn't agree on the actual material.
Right,
Right.
right.
Well, that's the staff, so they have to work, if we approve this as staff recommended, then that is not the material to be used on the building.
Right, they'll just come back with 5V or something else.
Yeah.
Or they'll just tell staff that they'll do 5V. That's
Right.
what's likely gonna happen. The,
Maybe you could clarify, so you've clarified, but maybe we should reread all the conditions for the applicant and for ourselves, and then just clarify what you want the staff to administratively approve. I think you've already talked about that with the colors, but if there's anything else that you want to be administratively approved or HDRB approved, just make that clear.
you want me to reread the,
I think that's probably a
Conditions.
good idea at this point. I don't think it would harm anything.
okay, so the staff conditions, it recommends, I'll just read it, final approval in that it satisfies the intent of the Beaufort Preservation Manual and requirements of the Beaufort Code with the following items to be submitted to staff to obtain a certificate of appropriateness. Item number 1, applicant to provide typical building sections, including 1 through the deck and porches, garage deck, and garage awning area. Condition number 2, applicant to provide typical details, including window, head, sill, jamb details, column, decking/trim connections, foundation to siding connections, typical eave conditions, etc. Condition 3, applicant to confirm that the steel garage doors do not have a faux wood grain finish, which they did earlier today. Condition 4, applicant to note that the cementitious lap siding and any other cementitious elements must have a smooth finish per section 4.6.3.alpha.1.bravo of the Beaufort Code. The hardy shingle siding does not come in a smooth finish. Applicant to confirm that all exterior fiberglass doors are smooth finish with no faux wood grain texture. Condition 5, staff is not supportive of the TimberTech vinyl railing as it is not appropriate for the historic district. The selected and proposed railing is a vinyl railing with bulky top rail support brackets, which are not typical of the historic district. That's the end of condition 5. I will add that there are other examples of things that can be used as they did in the presentation. That could be wood, it could be AZEK material. Condition 6, staff does not support the proposed Gulf rib profile of the metal roof. This is a manufactured preformed metal roofing panel with striations pressed into flat panel to reduce oil canning. This type of roof is not appropriate in the historic district and referenced in the Beaufort Preservation Manual. A 5V crimped roof without striations and flat panel or a standing seam without striations and flat panel are appropriate for the historic district. Those are the conditions that the staff had recommended. Those are conditions that I am adopting in my motion. The only condition I'm adding to that is that we are not approving the colors at this time, and we'll approve them at a future date. And we'll, within a week of you guys painting it, your samples, we'll join you on site, achieve a quorum, and we'll vote on the colors at that point in time. Per Ms. Petrella's comments, I think it would be smart to also have an alternative painted. That's my motion, and those are the conditions. Can we vote on that now?
Not yet.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there is a process. All right. So how do you sample color a roof? You're asking to do sample colors on site. What do you want to do for roof color? The onyx?
I would be okay with you just painting a piece of plywood and sticking it up there, or you paint the top quarter of the siding that color just to see it.
Okay. So you're asking, it's not in our guidelines, but we're asking to do an on-site mock-up
Yep.
of colors, including the metal, including the stucco color.
Right. I think the alternative is we could just say no
Yeah.
to the colors. And then you have to come back and do that all over again. So I think my thought, and I think the board's thought is we're trying to help get you to a permit faster and sooner so you can start sooner. I think that's the intent here.
I'm willing to go down that road as your chairman, but I think it's still a little bit of, unknowns there. You got a motion on the table. We have a second on the table. I hope staff is clear. Mr. Woods.
Ms. Sundrula had a comment. I don't know if we want to take more.
I'd like to close the door on this one, but, okay.
Thinking that the manufacturer might be able to spend of the roof with the cover, either, and maybe perhaps request both the charcoal gray and the onyx and actually on the material.
There's many, you could also just get a panel and paint it real
Yeah,
quick. There's plenty of options.
All right, there's options for that. All right, think we should be closing this one. I'll call the question.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I'm in support with my fellow peers that you have an approval to proceed, but you will have one more step to do when you get down to coloration. All right? And you won't be able to use that Gulf metal. You're gonna have to do, you have options, you can ask asphalt shingle, you can go to 5B, you can go to standing seam. Right? So you have options. And then if the color mock-up, if the board looks at it and thinks that onyx black is too contrasting with the skirt and the siding, then you will need to follow whatever direction we approve, or if we just disapprove it on site, we'll do it again. Right? We'll do it till we get it right. Okay. So, all right, we close that one out. We'll go on to item B, which is 902 Boundary Street, and your chairman will be recusing himself in this one. Mr. Bergman will take the chair. I'm recusing for the public understanding. I'm recusing because I have a family member who's architect on this project.
All right, we'll try to get going because we got a lot more on the
Yeah.
agenda. Okay, so you heard this before, just like the last one. This is 902 Boundary Street. It's got a little bit of history, a little bit of hair on it here. In 2019, it is on Boundary Street, kind of located on the the blue square there. I think, everybody's aware of this building, kind of iconic building to, the entryway into the downtown. It was obviously a former service station, gas station. And in 2019, there was a building permit that was issued, wherein you can see on this like lower right-hand side picture, there was kind of a commercial permit pulled, but no HRB application for basically to turn it into like a pub slash, and that was the patio area. That never really came to fruition. And so they're back with kind of the same idea. And as you can see, you had a March meeting, and there were some details at that March meeting, I think, that you desired before you gave final approval. And so we talked about the parking, we talked about kind of just some of those conditions. So this was the existing conditions demolition plan, and revisions as per the conditions of your meeting were about the double door, about screening details, trapezoidal windows, basically the cooler, that the roof of that cooler will be, will match the existing roof that's already on the building. And just a few other details. I think we've kind of got them all here, kind of highlighted here, the yellow, the red. Those were the details that I think you really had concerns with. And so the applicant has kind of provided you kind of a sheet on how they're planning on resolving those details. And you can see some of the screening here, what was asked for. And the material specifications on the door, on the shingle. Looking at the integrity guidelines, the 7 integrity guidelines, we think that this meets them. And then, not to belabor anything, but because you had a long conversation about this before, but we would recommend final approval with some conditions, some recommendations. Although the parking is more of a staff related issue, the van handicap space, it's a contributing structure. If I didn't mention that, we actually have the ability to exempt things as a non-conforming contributing structure from the code. So the parking space doesn't meet our development code to basically have that van. Obviously we're trying to promote handicap parking, but that would be an unsafe parking space because it'd be pulling right out into Boundary Street. And so it would create more of a problem than it would solve. Essentially this will just receive an exemption from the parking standards. However, there is appropriate parking on the street parking around it. We've determined for it to continue. So that's not a problem. Maybe some landscape plans provided to staff prior to the issuance of our COA. So, Christopher or I would look at what's on the yellow here. I think you saw from the picture, there were some pots that never really got planted, but maybe just a little more detail on what those are. We don't think that's a major concern, and we hope that staff could just approve that. We recommend using a panel single door on the east side opposite to the painted wood door. Previous to this meeting, they hadn't provided that specification for the double door. And as you can see, that's been provided since the packet went out. So that's been resolved. Just to specify that the existing HVAC screening matches the new walk-in cooler screening and material and color. I think, we've got some materials here, but maybe if we can just, they can just verify that at the COA, that would be great. Specify if new wood screen is being constructed as a shadow box style of fence, which is not appropriate. So I think we just want to know, are you doing that or not? And if not, we can still just approve it from what they've submitted. And then finally, as you can see, they did that new post, and it's not in the pictures here, kind of to provide structural support on that portache. I can't say it. Can't speak French very well. That it'd be either, is it going to be painted or is it going to be concealed? So right now it's just basically the wood. I think we've all passed through it. Let's just go back to the pictures because those were Google pictures. So I think everybody knows where that is. We pass it by it every single day. So if that wood beam, is that going to be painted the pink, or is it going to be like concealed in some way? That's a kind of a thing or a condition we'd like to have. So with that, I'll stop and turn it over to the applicant.
All right. Would you like to tell us your thoughts on the project?
Thoughts are we're ready to get started. Yeah, I believe we've covered everything and supplied the information we needed. We are gonna paint the timbers were an emergency installation that we got approval on during this process a year or more ago. We thought that we were preserving the structure, but as it turned out, it's a steel structure hidden by sagging wood. So it wasn't as critical as we thought, but it doesn't hurt, and it will be painted. You know, it's Janelle's choice, but I would imagine if there's white trim, it would probably be white, so that it's not confused with the structural, with the columns. The doors were existing during our final, or our first approval. We haven't changed those, but we have submitted the material information for those. Did revise the drawings and took away the handicap parking, which I felt compelled to provide, but I understand the process, so we don't need it. We took it off. The mechanical screening will be the same, and it will be board, not the shadow board as requested. That detail is on the drawings, and it's treated wood that would be painted. I think everything else was clear. There are no trapezoidal windows. That was an early idea that we discounted. We're really anxious to get to a building permit. We've had one before and it lapsed. We have a contractor ready to go, financing in place. So what we would really like today, if there was anything we needed to provide, I think the landscaping plan is forthcoming, or maybe something that we can take to staff. We would like to leave here with an approval, and we would like to apply for a permit tomorrow, if we can do that. Unless you had any questions, that's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? Or online?
No, no online.
No, no one online.
Good afternoon, Lisa Sunderlow with Historic Beaufort Foundation. Our Preservation Committee met on Friday and is in support of this project. We're actually happy to see something finally happening at this location, and think that this is a really good adaptive reuse of that property. And we actually did not have a concern with pressure treated wood, but we'll go with the direction that the applicant is saying, and that was recommended. So thank you very much. We're looking forward to the project.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? All right, we'll bring it up here for us to discuss. I remember initially this came and we were generally supportive, but there are a few details that we were just unsure of, and that's why I think we're back here today. It looks to me like all the questions are being answered and those details are being provided. How do
Yep.
y'all feel about this?
My biggest question at that time was the screening of the freezer, I believe it was. And once again, I'm going to complain about the size of these plans, but I'm guessing, and when I looked, zoomed in on the computer, it looked like the screening will be around 6 feet high. Is that correct, Mark? Okay, and then, which is slightly lower than the size of the roof of the building. So that was my biggest concern last time, is how high is this going to be? And so I'm fine with it.
Okay.
No, if they ever addressed the comments from the staff, then I'm in support of it. And it seems like they have, right?
Yep.
The only thing that I was gonna comment on, but I think has already been hit, is the ADA parking. I think, with where it is shown on the drawing, I think is just not safe at all. And so it's better to just nix it and say, you're gonna have an exemption and not need to provide ADA parking. So, if somebody needs it, come with a rollator or something. Sure.
You know where I stand. It's a federal law. It's not a local law. The historic district doesn't matter, except that our historic district's already there before the historic law, you know.
Well, the building code does provide exemptions from some of those laws.
Yeah, but we're unfeasible, and this is feasible, but I'm okay with not having it. Don't get me wrong. I just want to make it clear that it was taken off by request. It should be there. We were approved initially with 2 spaces, and I agree with that. You would have had to back out. But I'm not arguing for it. I'm just saying, I
Sure.
just want to make it clear that it's a federal guideline.
Understood, ADA, yep.
I want, it's something that I'm responsible for as my license states. So I just want to make sure it's clear that I support ADA parking. So.
Well, I think, I think we're probably ready for a motion, but I do want to talk about this for a moment, because I think the options are either you get exempted and we assume that it can't be done in a safe manner, and we're exempting it because it's historic, or we say redesign that whole patio area so that you can get one. Right. So I'm also in agreement with the staff that the current location is probably more harm than good.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement there as well. So I think we're all in agreement on the staff recommendations.
Yeah. Mr. Interim Chairman, I'll move to give this final approval based on the applicants agreeing to have met or will meet the 7 stipulations by the staff.
I second it.
Perfect. Any discussion? No? All right, we'll start with Ms. Wilson.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. That's right.
There you go.
Right downstairs.
If only there was a good printing company.
I'm telling you guys, you're killing me.
Can you do the next one that fast?
I'm afraid I'm gonna
Aye.
miss something.
You slowed that one down, I'm gonna say. All right, we're gonna go ahead and go to the next agenda item, which is item C, 710 Newcastle Street. This is an addition to an existing single-family, non-contributing structure. Keyword, non-contributing.
All right, good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Nicholas Navia, Planner 1 with the City of Beaufort. I'll be presenting the staff report for this project. So this project came to the board last month. They received conceptual approval with recommendations. The quick background is that they're adding more living space to, as mentioned, the non-contributing 1-story dwelling. They're increasing the habitable space from about 1,100 to about 1,800. This includes an addition of a sunroom and a porch to the front, and then also a rear porch. So these are the old slides from the conceptual approval, so I'll just quickly go through them. Zoning map, contours, street view. We did the staff analysis. We kind of went through all these details during the conceptual. And so now the following slides are the actual conditions that the board set for approval. The applicant provided a letter directly addressing each condition. And so on screen, you can also see our staff analysis of these conditions. So the first one, it's actually not really a condition. It's basically just stating that the rear porch encroaches beyond the rear setback line, but that the proposed porch is slightly larger than the existing. So the applicant responded that the rear porch will be pulled in 2 inches, so that meets the 5-foot setback at the rear. Our staff analysis is that the rear porch does now comply with the 5-foot rear setback. Second condition was just for the applicant to provide images of all sides of the building. So as you can see there, the applicant did provide that. The third condition is that well, it's not really a condition, but the proposed front porch and sunroom additions encroach about 1 foot and 8 inches beyond the average prevailing setback line. But again, this is an average, so staff is totally in support of it. The fourth item was that the applicant has revised the front porch configuration. We're generally in support of the configuration, however, due to the interior configurations, the front door isn't centered between the columns. So the applicant states that they hold to the belief that the front door, perfect center bay, is not critical. Staff is in support of that as well. And the option of putting the lantern to the left of the door, staff is in support of that. Feel like that addresses the concern appropriately. Fifth item is just changing the rear porch shed roof to a hip roof form. The applicant agreed, provided the revised drawing. As you can see on the slide, staff is in support. Item 6 was just to know HVAC service yards. Applicant provided that. Again, as you can see on the slide, there's the site plan with the HVAC and also the physical picture. And then the final condition was just to provide the typical sections. Applicant provided it, staff looked at it, staff is in support. So just like in the conceptual approval, we believe that it is meeting all the integrity guidelines, and our staff recommendation is to give final approval.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that presentation. Okay, if the applicant has anything to comment on related, I'm seeing a none, so we'll move on to a public comment period. And Ms. Sunderla.
Hello, my name is Lisa Sunderla, and I'm with the Historic Viewer Foundation. Our Preservation Committee had an opportunity to review this and is very excited about this project. I think that he's approached a rather nondescript building and given it some life and some character on the street and accomplished what his client wanted for it, but in a very sensitive way for the district. So we are in support of this project.
Thank you. Any other further public comment? Anyone online?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, let's close the public comment period and bring it up to the dais for consideration. What are y'all thinking? This has been before you before. I was not here. This is a non-contributing structure with a very significant overhaul happening. If you study the drawings closely, you realize it won't look anything like it does today, and it's going to be quite the endeavor to make it happen. But it seems to meet the litmus paper test. If that's how I feel it does. Any problems?
I think the previous meeting we had on it, I think in general, the entire board that was here was very supportive of it and the direction they were moving. I think there were just a couple things that were noted that they've addressed. I think it's going to be great. I'm happy with it.
All right, well, let's get a motion on the table and move on with this one.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I do it. We get a second from Mr. Woods. So no further debate. I'll call the question, starting down here.
Aye.
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 All right, we have a 5-0 support of this project. Let's see if we can get it built.
That was quicker than mine. That was quick.
All right, that's the pace now. That's how we're gonna do each one of them.
There you go.
All right. So where are we now? We're on the next item, which is
1108 Washington.
1108 Washington Street. Staff, give us the presentation.
All right, so 1108 Washington Street, similarly to 710 Newcastle, also received conceptual approval last month. And again, similarly to that one, conditions were given to the applicant and the applicant provided, a letter responding to those directly. So we'll just go through the slides again real quick. So the background is just to propose to renovate the front section of a contributing one-story historic dwelling. It's part of the city's vacant and dilapidated structures list. More recent additions from the 1960s are intended to be demolished. The applicant went to an HTRC meeting, they went to the HDRB meeting last month. And so here's just some historic inventory info. Again, these are actually the old slides from the conceptual approval. So we'll just kind of go through these real quick. There you can see the building. That rear portion in the picture is supposed to be demolished. During the conceptual approval, we went through our staff analysis. As you can see there, if there's any questions, we can go back to them. But these were the conditions given from the HDRB to the applicant. Again, so the first one's not really a condition, but the applicant did provide a response to it regarding the addition of pressure treated decking on the porch. The applicant stated that they're not proposing to add pressure treated decking on the porch. And that was a mistake. They're proposing to repair the existing concrete porch with the brick edging. Staff is in support of that. Recommendation number 2, to note if any other changes since conceptual approval are happening to the building, as well as just stating that any existing material should be retained where possible, just kind of a general rule. Staff is generally not supportive of the replacement of any historic material that is in sound condition, since this is a contributing structure. So applicant, noted proposed changes, staff looked at it, proposed changes are noted in the drawings. Recommendation number 3 was regarding the rear addition that appears in the 1924 Sanborn map. Staff, well, the applicant's response to it is that the 1924 Sanborn fire insurance map does no longer exist. As you can see, I've kind of placed the Sanborn map, I've aligned it as close as possible to one of the floor plans, and kind of from our analysis, we agree, we don't think that addition no longer or doesn't exist anymore. So we're good with that. Recommendation number 4 was just for the applicant to clarify if the existing front door is original, and if it can be salvaged. So the applicant replied that it is original and it will be repaired and restored. There is an aluminum screen door that will be removed. The photos included, as you can see in the slide. And a cut sheet was also submitted for the new wood door. And so staff is in support of all of this. And also we're in support of the white color for both doors. That is the proposed color for them. Item number 5 is just regarding the replacement windows. Again, it's not really a recommendation, it's more a statement, but just the current windows are non-original metal windows with horizontal panes, which aren't appropriate for this type of house. And so the applicant has noted on the cut sheet, as you can see in the pictures, that the proposed windows will have divided lights with interior grills. So staff is good with that. Recommendation number 6 was just to clarify the flooring material on the front covered porch. So as we already discussed, it's a concrete porch with a brick edging. It's not going to be a pressure treated wood decking on the porch. So staff is in support of repairing the concrete and the brick edging. Applicant to provide paint colors is recommendation number 7. And so the applicant states that all exterior colors will match existing. So light cream body, white columns with white trim, pickets, etc. And so we're in support of just maintaining and matching the existing colors. Recommendation number 8 was just for applicant to label all elevations the current directions. The applicant did that. And so our integrity guidelines, just like in the conceptual, we think they're all being met. And so our staff recommendation is to recommend final approval. We do have 2 comments. The first one is from a strictly architectural point of view, staff is generally not supportive of using the cementitious siding on an original contributing structure. However, I do want to state that that was already conceptually approved during the conceptual approval of using the fiber cement siding with a smooth finish. So that's just a comment we're putting out there. This project is also being applied for, or is being considered for the Bailey bill. So that might be a consideration for you guys. But I do just want to state that they did receive conceptual approval for the fiber cement siding last month. And the other item is just for the applicant to submit just the typical window head sill jamb details for final approval. Here's the Bailey bill application sheets. Procedurally, I'm not sure if that'll be separate, so we'll leave the project. Gotcha. So it'll be 2 separate motions, one for the project and then one for the Bailey bill. If there's any questions with the Bailey bill, I think we can go over that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the staff review. If the applicant representative here? Mr. Smith is architect of record, I believe.
Thank you. I don't really have any comments right now. We can talk more, but I don't know if you want to talk about the siding or not, but item 2 will certainly submit our typical details.
Okay, well, let's just wait till we'll have a conversation up here and bring you in on siding discussion. All right, any other public comment? Or is there a public comment for this project?
You need to just sit closer.
I don't want to be in the view, right? No. Lisa Sunderlow, Historic Beaufort Foundation. Excited to see projects that are listed on the vacant and dilapidated list actually coming back to life and back to reuse within the district. I think we have a couple of those on there today, which is exciting to see. The Preservation Committee did have, I think, some similar kind of concerns as staff about the cementitious siding. I think we had asked at the conceptual if there had been any exploratory to look underneath to see if any of the original siding was there. Did y'all do any exploratory? Is there any?
No.
Not really. Okay. All right. Because if you're talking about, you know, contributing structure, and I think what the value of what's happening with this sort of deconstruction of the additions to the house, you always see the houses wanting to be made larger. And here is an opportunity of somebody bringing it back to its original footprint. And it, you know, we get that the challenges of that house, and I've been inside that house, so I understand the condition of it. If there is any way to be able to do the wood siding, we would really like to see the wood siding. But we absolutely understand if the board chooses to go a different direction on it to ensure that you know, this project is able to happen and go smoothly, because I think all of their other plans and their efforts are with good intentions. And I think this will be a great addition back to the historic district. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sunderland. Any other public comment? No one online?
No, sir.
Okay, let's close the public comment period and bring it up to the board. This is, has been heard before as conceptual, as mentioned, and when they talked about conceptual, they may have mentioned siding material. I know this building and I know the previous owner. I mean, the owner now is a family member. I think it's a great story. You've got a cultural member of our community who's now deceased, whose son inherited this property and is making an effort to put it back together for whatever use. That's his derogatory. And it's in really dire needs. And so the fabric, the question that HBF asked is material wise, I went and looked at it a couple of times. There is no existing siding on that building. It's been stripped down to plank that had, for many years, had that asbestos siding on it. So that's a cementitious material. So my only thought about staff comments on cementitious material, regardless of how you guys feel, is that had they come in and said they wanted to keep it in kind, you wouldn't be able to make them take it off, right? And you can buy material look just like that today to fix what's there, or take it off and put it back on the look if that was approved, right? So it's really a question, I think, of economy of scale here to try to take a building this far gone and actually put it back into some condition. And I mean, this is the battle I face all the time. And with these, the form of the building is the only thing that exists historic. There's not one piece of that building, fenestration, that's architecturally correct from the period of the building other than the shape of it. Okay. So if you look at that in context, what are we trying to tell them to do with the building that's that far gone? We're keeping the shape. That's it. You know, there's nothing there. So you can go by and look at it yourself and make your own determination, but I'm in support of it. What's the thoughts of the board?
I won't make the motion yet, but I would make one that strikes number 1 as a condition, but keeps number 2.
Okay. Any other comment related to this one? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think anything that can make it more affordable to restore these homes, it's our purview to try to help them out any way we can in that. And this is it, being able to allow them to use cementitious siding, so.
Yeah, and to Ms. Sunderland's point, I mean, the overall project's a great project. It's exactly what we want. So I don't think there's any point in bickering over the siding when 99% of it is what everybody here thinks is a great move forward. So,
All right.
so I'll make a motion to approve as recommended, with the exception that we strike condition number 1.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
All right, we got a second down here today. All right, Mr. Motion made a motion and we have a second. So we're going to not debate that any further, and unless y'all want to.
Nope.
Nope.
All right, well, let's get a vote.
Aye.
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 All right, so Mr. Smith, if you can get him to get this moving, that'd be great. I know this long journey. I think the key on the hardy plank or siding is how the corner boards read, thicker the better, within reason. And that makes it look great. I'm more worried about that big tree next to it than I am about anything else.
The only other thing we need to vote on is Bailey Bill.
The Bailey Bill.
Okay, yeah, we can't close that one out until we get to the Bay Bill. So we're still gonna see a lot of these. I think all we had to do is approve this project for the Bailey Bill. They have to meet the requirements, right? They have to get to 75% value of the property, which should not be hard to do based on the county assessment and or there, but this amount of work is gonna take some money, so he's probably gonna meet that requirement. So any problem with the Bailey Bill being applied to this structure? If that's what we're being asked? No? Okay.
So I'll make a motion
Get a motion, Mr.
to
Motion.
approve this project for the Bailey Bill.
I'll second it.
We got a second on the table. Let's call the question. Down here, Kim, go for it.
Aye.
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 Let's see if we can get these Bailey bills cranking out, right? Some tax abatement. All right, good. All right, let's close that project and move on to the next one.
Since the city's cutting the budget on.
I lost my sheets. I don't know where we are.
All right, moving on to 805 Church Street. This is an application from the architect Jeremiah Smith, yet again, busy guy. He brought this to the HTRC in November of last year. This is a request for an infill development project of a residential duplex with a detached carriage house or a guest house. Location is within the Northwest Quadrant neighborhood. It's a currently vacant lot. In between, you have some Beaufort Housing Authority housing on the south towards Duke. Everything around Church Street itself is fairly narrow, one-story level, ranch-style housing. You do have some examples of higher two-story level houses, historic houses on Duke Street as well as on Washington Street. So the zoning is T4HN, historic neighborhood, medium density zoning in our transect-based zoning ordinance. So this is the side plan of what is basically what the concept is. You see the duplex, it has a front stairs that leads up to a front porch. Mirrored floor plan. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom on 2 floors. Service yard, as you can see, is in the rear. It has the detached 394 square foot carriage house, guest house, whatever it will be used for. In the back, parking will be provided through a driveway that you can see on the northern side of this property. There is no plan for a garage or anything like that, okay? When we look at the zoning, we especially look, in this case, at lot coverage ratios in T4HN. That would be 55, let me see, check this. So that would be 55% can be covered by anything that's roofed, like a roofed structures, dwellings, and so forth. 65 would be then impervious lot coverage ratio, which would include driveways, ramps that lead up to the house, front stairs, and so forth, okay? The numbers to check out, so if we do the math on the footprint of the main duplex dwelling with the detached, it's gonna be roughly 1,800 square feet. So the lot is 4,600, 4,659. That's 38% in roofed coverage. And with the driveways and everything, we have a 56% impervious lot coverage, which is under that 65 that they can do. Looking at the elevations here. So we're in the northwest quadrant, and our preservation manual has an appendix that talks also about, typical architectural aspects that we usually see or would like to see on houses within the northwest quadrant. We have a front porch. That's a very common feature on many of the houses in the northwest quadrant. It's here as well. It's a 4-bay symmetrical layout, so 2 on either side. We have hipped or a gable roof, actually. We have lap siding. We have chimneys, fireplaces for each of the units, so the chimneys are on either side. We have 9-foot ceilings on the first and the second floor. We have an 8-foot deep front porch, which we would like to see. That's a good depth for a front porch. The first floor elevation is raised 5 feet. The foundation wall is going to be stucco over concrete. The chimneys are going to be clad with stucco as well. The roof pitches on the main dwelling are 9/12. The shed or the detached has, let me just check that for you, has a lower pitch. However, there's going to be a screen service yard in the rear. And the siding material is hardy plank, okay? So going through the elevations you can see here. It basically, I mean, looking at the layout, the concept of the house, it really checks out. If we look at what's typical for the northwest quadrant, they used the historic example of 1103 Green Street, which is a good example of a historic duplex building within the historic district. So if you look at this picture, with what the concept of 805 Church Street is, it's pretty much checks out. I mean, not everything, but you get the idea of it. The detached little ADU in the back basically has also a front staircase leading up to the front door. It has a little shed roof. It also has a side entrance, which can be accessed through a ramp eventually. It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 8-foot ceilings vaulted in the center, so it goes up to 11 in the living room. 6/12 would be that pitch on the roof. Yeah. So with that being said, looking at the recommendations, integrity guidelines, location, it's a good location for a duplex. There is a lot of residential use around it. It fits in very nicely by buildings assigned within the northwest quadrant, as I kind of alluded already. The massing and scaling, if you look at the broader context of what lies between Duke and Washington Street, as I said in the beginning, there are examples of 2-story dwellings. However, if you only look at the immediate vicinity, the massing and scaling may be a little high. There is also a street section that was provided within the packet. The setting, the materials are good, the workmanship is good. The aesthetic, it will contribute very well to the neighborhood and the historic, so that's all very positive. So with that, our recommendation would be a conceptual approval. One of the staff recommendations would be to restudy the parking situation, okay? Since it's a duplex, it might be two parties that may not, hopefully they do get along, but so with that kind of setup, you will have all the cars in that driveway. So if somebody's parked in front and, and they want to get out, they will have to, it could potentially be maybe a messy situation. So maybe restudy that, maybe put in either, a second driveway on that other side, on the south side of the property, maybe incorporate something like a garage or anything like that. So that would be one. The overall structure height is a little high. So it's at 34 feet. That is mainly because we do have a raised first floor elevation of 5 feet. So one of the recommendations is to maybe either lower that or maybe also lower the roof pitch in order to kind of try to make it fit into that specific streetscape a little better. It does stand out, as you can currently see, because you have on either sides, you have a pretty narrow one-story ranch style houses currently. So then the standards that we always ask for is to provide material cut sheet specifications for roof, doors, windows, siding, paint colors. Also would like to know if the ramp will be built or not. I mean, there is an option that, next to that guest house on the south side of it, that it could provide for a ramp. It's kind of drawn in already conceptually. Would be good to know if that's actually something that they will provide or not. And let me see. And one of the other more architectural staff comments is how the columns, how the base and the cap details look like. That's something that's still a little unclear. I can read it out to you. That's basically staff recommendation. Number 6, staff recommends the applicant add a small base to the front porch columns. Applicant also shows a column capital in section 1, sheet 1, but not in the elevations. Staff would be supportive of a simpler column capital than the crown mold showing in drawing 1-1. Yes, so with that being said, that's 805 Church Street. Do you have any questions?
Okay, we may bring you back up, but let's see.
All right.
All right, does the applicant have anything to comment related to the presentation or additional information? He's trying to decide.
I can either wait or I can hit each point now, whatever you think.
Just go ahead and hit the points. You
Okay,
got it.
let's do it. Number 1 is about the parking. I have a section from the code. If it's all right, I'll read it.
Sure.
On a block face where formalized on-street parking is available, single-family and two-family dwellings, ... shall be exempt from these off-street parking requirements. I don't, we've got some right in front of the Beaufort Housing Authority that's on our block face. So I think we're good there. But we can talk more about it if you like, and I can give this to you. I think staff was looking at the next bullet down. All right, I'll go on to number 2 about the height. I don't really think it's that tall. I think the other houses are squatty and short. And they're all from the 90s, so I don't think that's a good context. I don't think the pitch should really be lowered. The owner would like to keep it high to be able to work underneath the building and in case of hurricane floods and that kind of thing. Number 3, we'll provide cut sheets. Number 4, we kind of showed the ramp, so I don't know what more you would like to see, but we can show that not dashed if you like. Number 5, and that's just to provide accommodation for veterans, possibly. The owner would really like to be able to build this as affordable housing to teachers, firefighters, veterans, etc. Number 5, we'll do smooth lap siding. And number 6, we'll add a base to those porch column details. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll open it up to public comment.
Lisa Sunderla with Historic Beaufort Foundation. The comment that our preservation committee had to do with the height and the concern about the scale of that structure along the street and maintaining a rhythm along the street, which is an important part of how we judge infill development that happens within the historic district. Granted, I agree that those buildings are 80s or 90s structures and may eventually be torn down at some point and something could happen with it. The question becomes then, do you want to set a precedent that then every building on that street is going to be that same height along the street? So either you go with sort of the nature of the district and the rhythm of the district, and not, as you said a little bit earlier, make yourself stand out within the district. And I think if y'all look at that one slide where he shows the comparison, there's no question that building stands out within the district. I think it can absolutely be addressed with the height standpoint, with the recommendations that staff have made with regard to lowering the pitch of the roof and also lowering the 5-foot foundation that's there, that could make a huge difference. Part, I think, of what makes it also look bigger is the verticality of the design. It's a very narrow design, and I think in life it won't be that narrow, it won't be that narrow looking, so perhaps won't look in real life as tall as it is. But right now, with the way the design is drawn and the impact that it looks like it has on the adjacent houses, then we would agree with staff's comments with regard to lowering the height as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment online or in the audience?
None online.
Okay, none online. I don't see anybody raising a hand in the audience, so we'll go ahead and bring this up here for discussion. We've got 6 items. Look like 2 of them, the last 2, 5 and 6 from staff are not an issue. I agree, that's what I've heard. I would comment that on item number 1, parking, that's a code compliant issue. I'm not certain HRB can design parking or tell them how many they gotta have. If they don't have them, they don't have them. So, Mr. Smith gave us a document. I'm not sure it completely applies to what we're talking about, but, this particular house does not face formalized on-street parking. The on-street parking is adjacent on another street. It's actually not compliant to code, in my opinion.
I think it has to do with the distance from the property. I think if it's within a certain distance, then on-street parking can be applied.
Possible, but I don't think that was the intent of the code, is to create parking in another part of the neighborhood that you could build something over here and use. So
Perhaps, but I agree with your initial point. I don't think parking in general is for us to discuss. I don't think that's our purview. That has nothing to do with design. I would just strike that as a condition, because that's up to the planning department and the building department. They can adjudicate whether or not it meets code. It's not an aesthetic thing for us.
all right, I agree. So unless anybody has any other comment, and wants to deep dive into that, let's concentrate on. There's other 3 items that may be discussed on the staff, and then any other personal thoughts you have related. All right. Mr. Woods, what would you think? What do you think of this one?
Can you bring up that slide where you have the 2 homes on either side and show the context, please?
Sorry, I don't think I have it in there. You mean the
It was
streetscape?
page 5, I believe.
Yeah, it's not in there. I'm sorry. It's not on the PowerPoint.
Oh, on the slides, okay.
I have it on my iPad if you want to look at it.
Well, to address that, I think there is some merit in the concerns of the height of the existing finished floor that's proposed in relation to the other homes. And I understand, Jeremiah, those homes may be out of context, and maybe those homes should be elevated. I'm not sure about reducing the roof pitch. I think sometimes that just affects the design, but I think there's the opportunity potentially to lower the home a little bit and reduce the foundation height. In particular, because you have a stem wall, you don't have individual piers, for that detail, which would be more traditional. So I'm not, you can gain a couple of feet by that, but other than that, it's a nice project. I don't think when you start trying to flatten the roof pitch, when you do that, you need to go more holistically and start looking at the overall design. You just can't just arbitrarily pick a different roof pitch and say, okay, we're going to reduce the pitch by X and reduce the height by Y and have a good synthesis. So that would be my concern. I think there's merit that we should have a conversation about potentially lowering, because until those homes are torn down and redeveloped, you're going to have, it's a bit of an oddity to have this larger home
Well,
placed in the center.
in the discussion related to height, height has always been a concern on every project coming in, and the way Milner addresses that is adjacent historic properties. Not every house in that neighborhood is 1900 is 1950s or newer, right? There are some historic houses in context, but they're one-story homes predominantly. They're not 2.5 story. This thing reaches up there, and I think that I wish the architects that would bring projects to the board would understand fully that height is a concern and do everything they can to bring the building heights down, rather than having a client tell them, oh, I want to be able to work under some floodplain. This particular piece of property, if I'm correct, slopes downward at the rear yard greatly. And so all the water, any water is going to go to the following block. So standing at 5 feet on the property front is the highest piece of the dirt. So now the back is going to be like 8 feet of this unless they fill the lot in. So you can have a huge elevation at the rear of the property that's going to make that thing stand and feel, just looking at it, going to be much taller than it. It's going to feel like it's taller than it is.
Is this in a flood zone X? Is this in an X? What's that? What is the elevation of it?
It's just me. The land or the building?
The land is at or above 13. So building the stem wall up is not even a flood requirement because it's
Right.
already above base flood.
Right.
It's an aesthetic
Right.
choice, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's a homeowner decision.
Yeah. I don't think the land goes down. I think it goes maybe up a little bit to the
the rear
rear.
property. I mean, as I remember, that slopes back towards Newcastle Street.
But regardless, I think your point's well taken. That I agree with Mr. Woods in that messing with the roof pitch doesn't make a lot of sense. But I also agree that having a 5-foot stem wall is going to seem excessive, especially when it's not required. You see that on Carteret Street and other places where the ground elevation is 8 foot, right? And they need it to meet base flood, or historic homes did that automatically because they knew it flooded. I feel like it would be pretty odd to have that there. I do love the framing of I'm not too tall, they're just too short. That's a good framing. I appreciate that.
I would like to bring attention to this page that we were talking about. It was in our packet. They compare 1103 Green Street to the design. And it does seem that that porch is lower than 5 feet, the porch elevation. And it also seems that the pitch on the roof is a lot less. So if we look at this and say, okay, if we're going to compare these two, let's lower.
Yeah, I would look at
Porch.
that picture as indicating that we have duplexes, because there would be typically, years ago, this board would have said no way to duplexes, because Milner speaks to that.
Yeah,
Milner did not like to have multifamily houses in one unit. They wanted the houses to read as a single building. However, we did have them, and we may still have some left, like this one. That was probably converted into a duplex. A window was probably taken out, maybe, I don't know. But the bottom line is, I don't think we're fighting duplexes any longer, so that's not a consideration. But look, I think it's too big. I think it's too tall for no real reason other than the client wants it tall. And I think that's kind of a false sense of, that's not a good enough reason to me, to just apply for a building to be tall simply because your client wants it. I think the job needs to be explaining why it isn't too tall.
What I would suggest turning that logic on its head, the citizen wants something on their property. And so it's incumbent on us to come up with reasons why they can't do that.
Refer to the Milner Manual.
Okay.
It says, page 60, second column. Previous ordinance suggested allowable variances of up to 10% of the height and width of adjacent existing historic structures.
But those two that are adjacent are not historic structures.
Is not one of them? I know one of them is,
Well, the word adjacent, that text you're reading there is actually a rewritten document in the preservation manual. It's not the Milner quote,
right,
right? So
and then you read above it. The paragraph above it has to do with, this is the regulatory process chapter. Being the design exceptions and that sort of thing. So if we look at these and refer to these,
look, this is conceptual, right? It's not
Yeah.
a final approval. This is a conceptual request, unless I'm reading this.
No,
wrong.
no, you're right, you're right.
All right, so look, this is the moment where you set in place the mass and scale. This is a conceptual component. Once you go past this point.
Yep.
Then all bets are off, right? So this is the time to tell them it's too big, too wide, you know?
I would be okay with saying it's too tall and I think you should bring it down via the stem wall. I would not make the stipulation that they need to rework the pitch of the roof.
Well, that's up to them.
Yep.
I think they can rework the pitch. I think these this high pitch roofs don't necessarily need to be there. Had they started a design knowing they wanted to keep the height down, they would have done a lower pitch roof. They wouldn't have raised it 5 feet off the grade when they didn't need to. But that's what they chose. I mean, you got 8 or 9 steps to get into this building. You didn't need to do that. Okay, it just doesn't make any logical sense for construction costs. A reality, a 5-foot crawl space gives you a little room other than a kayak storage. But
I guess my question is, what do you, if you're gonna say no to the height, what are you referencing as your justification that's in black and white that says you can't do this?
great question. I think the Milner guidelines speak to adjacent structures, but that doesn't mean they're right next door to them.
Right, right.
So I think you can look at buildings in that block that are historic and realize they're 1 stories. So this is 1.5 times, almost 2 times the height of the adjacent structures that are historic.
exactly.
So, I mean, that's
That's
enough
what you
merit to
want.
me to say, look, this is a very nice, attractive building. I mean, granted, anywhere else, not in a historic district or in a different location, I think it might fly. But I think particularly on that block in that quadrant neighborhood, when we've been struggling trying to keep house sizes down,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of hard to have a conceptual and say, oh, it's okay, go ahead. That's my,
Mr. Chairman, earlier, maybe I didn't make it very clear. I'm not saying that they should not look at lowering the roof. I'm saying that it should be up to the architect, his discretion of his design.
Okay.
And we're not dictated an 8 or a 9 or a 7. I think it has to go back to them to do that.
Exactly.
We're
That's
gonna
my
end up
point.
bastardizing a design, by committee, and that's not, I don't want to be part of that.
yeah, well, I'm not trying to give them a design
Right.
height. I'm not
Right.
trying to say, make it a 4 and 12 or instead of a 6 and 12. What I'm saying is, what do you need to do overall to diminish the height of this building? The mass and scale seems to be out of the norm for the area, regardless if the houses next to it are from 1950.
I
So,
agree.
so the feeling from this board is, do you have?
Yeah.
Good.
So first of all, that was a cottage. This isn't a cottage. And I think infill's really important. I think the building is very nice. I agree that I think the scale of it is just too much. But to your point about, designers taking into consideration that we're trying to enforce the scale that, not going over, the mass that we are trying to set as a threshold. So I think that, you know, that's a good place to start because you're right, Mr. Woods. You can't ask the architect to go back and, you know, squish the roof down because that wasn't his vision. So I don't know. I mean, I kind of struggle with that. The only thing I totally agree with is the fact that I think the scale is just too great for that site.
So it sounds to me like pretty much everyone on the board is in agreement with the second staff condition, which is reduce the overall height. You can pick how you want to do it, but
Mhm.
reduce the overall height. It gives some recommendations, but those don't have to be what the architect chooses.
Yeah, it could be a combination, or it could be singular.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you normally do it on a conceptual. It's okay to say no. You know, I mean, that's what the position you need to be in is to say something's not right. No, go back and do it again. Bring it back. I mean, you could just vote no, just not support this at all. They'd come back. You know, we don't need to design it for them. They just realize they've heard what our feelings are and they need to meet the intent, right? So.
So it sounds like we're good with 3 through 6. I want to strike number 1 because I don't think we should comment on parking. But it sounds like everyone on here is supportive of 3 through 6 for sure. And also number 2, which is saying reduce the overall height.
Yeah, if we just, I mean, you could support the project as conceptual in line with the
Conditions.
staff's conditions, and that's the end of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
If I was going to make the motion, I would just strike number 1. Do you want to give them an opportunity to
Well, it's not,
defend?
we don't have to strike it because it's not our preview.
We shouldn't change that for protocol now. Let's go ahead and keep Mr. Motion Maker. Let's do it.
I should be paid for this. I'm going to start charging per motion. All right, well, I'll make a motion to grant conceptual approval per staff recommendations. I'll modify that in that we will strike number 1 and keep the remainder.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second on the table. Unless anybody wants to beat it up some more, we'll call for a vote.
Aye.
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 All right, guys. One more out of the way. All right, let's see. Where are we at now? We're at 602 Bladen Street.
Oh, boy.
All right. Is new
Okay.
construction, single family. Okay.
Okay, this was tabled over a year ago after an impassioned plea for more height from Mr. Ramsey.
How timely.
I believe he quoted the Fountainhead or something, right? I think you did. Anyway, this is also a conceptual request. It is, you know, on Bladen Street. You can see it's kind of a small lot on Bladen Street. Really kind of across the parking lot from the new townhomes that were approved, but from basically Urban Market, the back end of Urban Market. Here's some of the street views of that location. I think everybody kind of knows where it's located, but again, last year there was a 4th story on this. And there was a lot of discussion. There was essentially a kind of a patio that was above with an elevator, and like kind of some conditioned space for the elevator on that 4th floor. So that was tabled, but this is what's been submitted in the meantime. So it's almost 2,600 square foot, 3-story house that's over 40 feet high. They have taken the 4th story off, and you can kind of see this would be the elevation from Bladen Street. And this would be the elevation from King Street. And so, and then this is the elevations on the 2 sides that, you know, really wouldn't be visible to the average person. So you can see it has a garage and double porches there. So, you know, it's back here, here's the 3D visualization of the project. And so everybody gets a good feel. Looking at the 7 integrity guidelines, I think we feel like that they could be met with some conditions, with some changes. And so what are those changes? You know, you were just talking about that as referenced before. we kind of feel like the roof slope and the plate heights, et cetera, could be lowered because the structure height is again, well over 40 feet. And so that seems a little high. I think there's some concern about the fireplace, which looks pretty nice. I think you can take that, that's a kind of a, I don't think we're really strong on that recommendation, but if you look at the floor plans in your packet, there's basically in those porches, there's basically inserts that go out, not in. And so, the porch would have a nice fireplace. The thought is that that's not really seen anywhere else in the historic district, especially in a house. So there was some concern about that, maybe setting a precedent. One of the main concerns that was discussed is the ground floor fenestration on that Bladen Street side. You can kind of see it here, but maybe it's a little easier to see back here. That really should be a full-size window like the second floor. And the reason being is Bladen Street is kind of a commercial street, and those small windows, while it be a garage, aren't really appropriate for its mixed-use nature and for its, this is a very front-facing, really up against the street, some of the porches over the street. It's very urban. We want to see those full windows on that east elevation. So that's a recommendation as it moves out of conceptual. So that be changed. The fenestration on the west facade to match adjacent window sizes at landing. So let's just go there. So there's some concern there. I think you see it. And also the kind of the full size shutters that you see on this elevation, on the north elevation, those should be like half shutters instead. This kind of looks a little awkward or clunky, if you will, having that full shutter on one side. And also kind of lining up the south elevation, the door here with the windows. So you can see there's a bit of an offset with the door and the windows. And I know HBF had some concerns about the kind of the fencing there. That is not typical. I don't know that staff has a major concern about that right now, but I'm sure that'll be brought up. But really the main concern I think here is really just the height of the building and those windows treatments, especially on the ground floor. But otherwise, we think it's pretty successful design, and those are kind of our recommendations for conceptual approval. And I'll let Mr. Ramsey kind of make his impassioned plea for more height again. So with that, I'll stop.
Great, okay. Thank you very much for the staff report on that project. Do we have an applicant like to add anything to that conversation before we get into the meat and potatoes?
Nice to see you guys again. Cooter Ramsey, Allison Ramsey Architects. I was gonna have Jeremiah do this for me, but y'all beat him up just as much, I guess. Chandler and Amy have actually already pleaded mercy. So they're A-okay with kind of working out all these details and getting all these items addressed. I don't think that we have a big hang up with some of the items on here. I'd like to kind of see where your hot points are before presenting you with my arguments for everything, because some of them might not be hot points for you. And if they're not hot points for you and they're not hot points for them, there's no need for us to just listen to me talk for an hour. So that's really it. I'd like to sit back, kind of hear what you have to say about it, and then maybe present you some other material if we need to.
Thank you. All right, we'll open the floor to public comment at this point with the proposed design. This is a conceptual approval.
Good afternoon, Lisa Sunderlow with Historic Beaufort Foundation. I shared an email with Cooter over the weekend that our Preservation Committee had reviewed it on Friday, and overall is in support of the project and in support of the changes that have been made to it over time. The one item I did say was that we were in support of staff comments regarding the overall height and still being able to address the overall height, which he assured me that there had been some look into that already about doing that. With regard to the little fencing, I think the point that I had brought up earlier I don't know if it was here or at HTRC, was where exactly is going to be the entrance to the house? Because the address is Bladen Street, but that looks like a formal entrance at King Street. So I was just a little confused about that. Is there? Yeah.
Quick.
So I don't know if that's something, Mr. Ramsey.
Maybe that's the other way to look at it.
Okay. All right. So if that's the intent to change the address to King Street, then I think that makes a difference with focus on that location. But I do think the fence is probably too ornamental for Beaufort, and I would just keep it all at that lower height. And if you're going to do piers, I wouldn't slide into those piers, but it's just not something you see within the district. But overall, I think we were pleased, and you'll be happy to know, I actually support the stacked sort of bay triple windows. Because I know that was a concern before, but seeing it with this roof and with the change, it really does work. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anybody online?
No, sir.
All right, we'll go ahead and close public comment. We'll bring it up to the board for discussion, understanding this is second conceptual application for this particular lot. I will speak to say that I've had a little bit of neighborhood questions or pushback, not primarily on this building, but trying to understand the totality of the plan for that corner, that block, because unfortunately for the applicant, there's a project across the street, not in the district, that has some public impact on, what's going on down there in that corner? Why have all of a sudden these big buildings getting approved? We didn't approve the one across the street. So there is some context to be understood about what the public may be perceiving is happening there. I will say in background, this is a corner block that did not fall into the Bladen Street redevelopment zone. And so in context, the buildings of half a block over or so had a different review process, still in historic. This is a primary corner lot, and if the other buildings had been built already across the street, the feeling, I think, would change in that neighborhood, meaning the elevation wouldn't seem so daunting. Now, we never guarantee the developer's actually going to build anything they design, so we don't sure if those will even come out of the ground across the street, so there's no context to look at that. My biggest concern on the elevation on this was really related to the historic building to the right of it, that I believe it's in the 34 to 36 foot height elevation. Are you gonna be able to see it? That's the question. This building actually sits slightly forward of that part of that building. But there are concerns about how many more buildings would be on this block. I think there's 3 more lots on behind this. So I think we need to understand some context, but this particular building has evolved, and I like it a lot better than I did the first round. I don't see in it a push to try to get high enough to see the river, which I think is what we were seeing before. And I think that kind of was a little bit alarming, is trying to reach up with roof decks and things like that.
I like that.
I know you did.
This one.
You're and odd birds. It would have been, right?
I'd
All right.
like to say on this 3D visual, the house behind it is actually a 1-story house. I spent a lot of time over there in the past few weeks, videoing, walking it, and that is a 1-story historic building, I believe.
I think it's a new construction right behind it, but.
But no, this house, yeah.
AI is just making up the background.
Right,
Exactly, exactly. So when you go over there and actually stand on the lot, that's just a small 1-story structure. It's right across, this lot is right across where you said from where they're building those condos. And, you got to look at all the historic structures around it. If you look at this Northwest Quadrant map, and it has all the historic structures on it. They're all small cottages and,
Well, my comment would be that this block is anchored by large buildings, and this is not inappropriate in my mind for the massing of the building or the scale of the building within some perimeters. I don't understand why we keep doing these real high roof lines. I mean, visualize this particular AI picture without the gable or at the hip at all. If it was a flat roof, traditional colonial style, no, flat roof, not I'm asking you to do that, but visualize it. Now you got three porch sections, right? And that's where the elevation really shows you, right? I think the staff comments or HBF comments was about the lower columns. Ironically, I think that same fenestration shows at the other end of the block in the historic district in the Bladen Street redevelopment zone. There's a commercial building down there that has the same similar fenestration at the bottom.
Yeah,
right?
at the bottom,
And
yeah.
what's happened on Bladen, I mean, you got two fairly large buildings there already. And then you have the new construction on Bladen, and then you have the chamber building across the street on Bladen.
That's the size of this. The chamber building is the size of this. So if you've got the chamber building on one end of Bladen, of that new district, whatever, the overlay, and then you've got this on the other end. So you've got this like a sandwich effect with smaller structures in between. That's what concerns me.
You said this was not inside the Bladen redevelopment zone?
No.
This is just outside of it?
And I'd like to know if anybody has any history. I know you know a lot. I know y'all have a lot. So why was this little parcel left out?
It was left out because of mistrust with the city. So we actually wrote the code for that to be in the district as well, but the owners did not want, and the current owners are not the old owners, but the owners did not want it to come into the district because they didn't want the city to do the streetscape. They didn't trust them. They didn't believe the rules were going to be what they said. It was just,
Okay,
that's the reason.
all right,
So we basically spot zoned it and took it out, which
okay.
pretty much was illegal, but we did
So
it
it leaves
anyway.
it kind of a convoluted
Well-
little area.
So my take on it is, and I could be over my skis on this, but I thought the Bladen redevelopment zone was supposed to make it a more retail commercial corridor, to make it a main thoroughfare to get people to downtown.
Right.
And that would allow for taller, more robust buildings. And that if you have those, that also helps with people slowing down, right? If you have a big canopy of buildings, well, supposedly.
Since when?
Supposedly. So, I mean, listen, that's, people come up with things. That's what I've heard. I don't know. But the previous point I think is still relevant, that whole area, the Bladen Street is supposed to be a main thoroughfare. That was the design and the initial intent. And if you're trying to keep with that, regardless of this property being spot zoned, it should still be taken into the context of the entire Bladen redevelopment zone, which is how I would interpret it. So I would be okay with the height. Granted, I was okay with the height of the previous submission. So, my opinion might not be super influential there, but I think it's great design. I agree with some of the fenestration points that staff made. But I think overall it's a great project. I don't really have much heartache over the fireplace. I know that anything that's new, we like to use the alternative verbiage of unprecedented. I don't know that it's fair to do that every time there's something new. I think if the overall concept of the structure is in keeping with the type of themes and designs we see, not every single element has to be somewhere else for us to say it's okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily have a problem with the fireplace being extruded out into the porch, if that's what's desired. That's my take.
I think the rhythm is okay with the structures next to it. I just feel like the height is just way. That's my only issue. I think everything else, I wonder why the home is placed on top of the garage, why the garage wasn't made separately, but because it was gonna be too tiny.
Yeah, there's just no space on the lot.
What, do you have thoughts, or anybody have thoughts on the fenestration comments? The ground floor windows being enlarged?
I
not
do
enlarged?
think those windows on the garage side look a little dinky. compared to all the other nice, big.
We agree.
Yeah, they're talking about in the brick
So it's,
facade.
yeah, these ones, yep,
Mhm.
yep.
Yeah, remember, it's conceptual, so you give them, you kind of give them the feedback so that they know what to do if they come back to us. So if ultimately, if you just plain said too tall, and we got 5 too tall, they would have to come back with something shorter, right? And there's a way to do that. Yes, sir.
Height's gonna be lower. Have a problem with that?
Ask him to come up, Mike.
You want
This
to?
is gonna be changed, to come down and have a chimney.
Mr. Chairman, can you ask him to address the?
Yeah, we need to get you on record. We have to have you. Would you mind making your comments at diocese? I mean, just so we get you on record and public view.
Yeah. So we're totally agreeable with lowering the height, the pitch of that roof. That's fine. The windows down in the garage area, totally fine with making those bigger. Personally, I want the fireplace to look like a real fireplace, so it's gonna come all the way down to the ground. And then have a chimney coming out. And I don't know what other. I think that's it. I just wanted to comment. I'd also like to comment about your comment about being sandwiched in little buildings. So I'm sure you're aware of the project across the street from me. Yeah, there's also another.
Did not approve.
Okay, I know that, I was at the meeting. There's also another project on Bladen Street, very close to this, that has got conceptual approval with the city. It's got 3-story tall buildings. And so the northern part of Bladen Street is gonna look completely different than it does today in 2 years. Totally different. And just letting you know, there are other structures that are gonna be built there.
Yeah, but our purview is a historic district.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand.
Great. Well, thank you for your comments. So I like Mr. Bergman's comment though about the contextual nature of Bladen Street and what the intent was when the city took that big gamble to actually make the old coastal contractors block into a redevelopment core. I sat on council and was one of the ones that approved that. I know my thoughts were trying to do anything we can to attract a redevelopment in that part of the city. And now after I don't agree to everything I see down there, but that's how the nature of it, you don't get into the nuts and bolts like that. You just kind of get a 40,000 foot look down. What can you do to make that work? It was a good test. I think it did what it was supposed to do. There's some fringes starting to happen now that are incubated from that. This is one of them. So it's positive to see development there. I think if the applicants already tell us they're gonna, it's conceptual that they can lower the roof. Hope that means both roofs, the gable and the hip. That'll get it more in line with the adjacent historic property. That would go a long way to solve me. Those windows, yeah, they're a little odd. I think the red brick is more odd than the small windows. Because of the type of fabrics, whether that was purposeful or not. There's no brick anywhere else showing unless you were able to pull the fireplace in brick rather than.
No, that was just AI took some liberties. You talking about the brick on the garage?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not.
That's not the
brick.
color you plan to use in
No.
conceptual. Okay, good.
I know you, Mr. Trask, you pointed out that you would want the fireplace to go all the way down. I don't think we should even discuss that because that's not presented to us. And I don't know, and that would also significantly change the plans because then that window that we're looking at right now disappears. So I would just recommend we kind of eliminate that from our brain and just rule on the plans that are before us. My position is item number 2 from the staff is that they don't like the fireplace extruded into that. If we want to keep that in there because the applicant's saying they're going to change it anyway, it sounds to me like they're going to change it, but it would still be extruded. I don't have a problem with it being extruded. I would adopt some of these, but I would strike number 2. That's my position. if we want to kind of run through these and figure out where we all stand. So number one, they already said that they're good with reducing the overall height, so we could keep number one of the staff recommendations.
Can I clarify that? I don't want to squeeze the heights of those floor levels. We are okay with reducing the height of the building by changing the roof pitches. But we're not going to do a 9-foot or an 8-foot ceiling in that building. Like, that's just ridiculous.
How much are you thinking, Tudor?
0. They're only 10-foot plates.
I mean, the roof.
They're willing to do the roof as much as you want. I don't think we should change any of it. I think if you look at that rendering, you see that roof falls away from your eye pretty quickly because it's a hip roof. It's not a gable. It's not out at the street level. The height's really not there. A building should have a cap on it. That is the cap for the building. I don't think we should change it. That being said, they're happy to put any pitch on it you want.
So, I want to just kind of run through each of these and then we can.
Well, it might be easier to ask them what they disagree on the staff report, but you can.
Right.
You know.
Well, we can do that if you'd like, Mr. Chairman.
I mean, I guess, Mr. Ramsey, anything on here, there's 10 items on the staff report. You've had an opportunity to digest that.
We're okay with changing roof pitches. No issues at all.
That's number one, right?
That's correct, but we don't want to change the floor ceiling heights.
Okay.
Well,
We only have 10 foot.
Can we just clarify? I don't think one is dictating to change ceiling heights. I think it's just commenting
It does.
overall on.
It says recommends, it's too tall, recommends reducing the plate heights of the 10-foot tall floors on the second and third floor. We do not want to do that.
Okay, well, that's just a way of you to lower it. That's gonna give you an option.
Right, that my interpretation is it's not saying you need to do that to lower it. It's just saying this is an option to lower it.
Gotcha. Perfect. Fireplace. Wanted to kind of see how you guys felt about it. We're happy to make adjustments to it. If you like it as it is, happy to leave it. Chandler doesn't love it as it is. He's happy to bring it down as a real fireplace. And that can come back and you guys can see it again. and
Well, in the next
have
review,
options.
this is probably gonna take at least 1 or 2 more.
Correct.
So I think the key for me on the fireplace, it should read as a fireplace, whether it's contemporary or historic in context. It should read as a full fireplace, not.
We're okay with
part,
that.
All right.
We don't disagree.
Okay, so just to be clear, what are we saying about number 2? That we like number 2 or we don't like number 2 or we want something entirely different?
Well, the staff's not supportive of the way it's designed, period. So that's.
So
Come back with
we're saying we agree with that.
Agreement,
We'll keep
right.
number 2. Okay.
The larger windows on the ground floor, we agree. We're going to do something to make better openings on that ground level to get a more kind of could be commercial down the road feel to it. So we completely agree with that.
Which item was that on this list?
3 addresses most of the fenestration.
Number 3.
Okay.
But 4 also. I would kind of lump 3 and 4, but yeah.
Same with 4. Yeah, with no issues. We're going to address all those issues. Number 5, enlarging the windows on the stair landings. Happy to do it. Don't agree with it at all. I think if you look at those elevations, the fenestration is there. Everything's lined up. Everything's clean. It's organized. It's balanced. Like what I have, happy to adjust it though. That's definitely not a sticking point. The comments about the shutters, don't agree with, happy to adjust though. When you do bifold shutters on small windows, they get squatty, right? Like we like more vertical proportions, so I'd rather keep single shutters where I have them shown. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly okay to do.
Would that not change if we go to larger windows though?
It would. If we go to larger windows, I'm gonna pair the shutters.
Right.
Yeah.
So that may be a what was that, number 6? I
Number
think
6.
number 6 may be moot if 4 and 5 are implemented, or I'm sorry, 3 and 4 are implemented.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 7, impervious to pervious. We did calculate, we're in great shape. We're at 60% lot coverage right now. So we're fine from that perspective. We have a 76% frontage on Bladen Street and an 81% frontage on King Street. So both of those are in the sweet spot too. So no issues with number 8. The number 9, moving the door. We are going to address that. We'll come back with that cleaned up as well. We're either going to slide it over and balance it out, or we're going to make an adjustment just to make that entry a little bit more pleasing to everyone. And then cut sheets, those will definitely come eventually.
Sound like they're in agreement, everything on the list.
Okay, so the only things that they're willing to do everything, but no, 5 and 6, they would prefer not to mess with. And then for Mr. Ramsey, he likes the height. I also am okay with the height. So unless somebody else wants to take on the job of making motions, I'll make a motion that I like.
Well, we're not ready there yet. We're almost there.
Okay.
All right, so, I've heard, what I'm hearing from the applicant, they're pretty much ready to meet the staff for conceptual. That's a lot, that's a long way.
Sure.
If they're gonna take 10 items and do 7 of them, that's a long way. So, my hopes would be that if we approve this conceptually, they come back, the building's a little lower, windows a little bit bigger in the garage, some other tweaks are made on the fireplace, that they can get everything else done and get to an approval status.
Yep. Can I try and narrow us to a decision? I think that I would make a motion that we strike 5 and 6. I think 6 is moot once they start moving, changing windows. I think the one for the stair landing, I agree with Mr. Ramsey, is not material. So I would strike 5 and 6. I would also strike number 1 because I'm okay with the height. But if everybody else here does not like the height, we can keep it in there.
Well, if you just leave staff comments as they're all 10 are written, it's gonna wash out. It's conceptual.
Yep.
Think about that, man. I mean, we don't have to subtract anything from staff comments because the reality is the applicant just stood up and said, all these things will be addressed. The height.
Well, if you want to restrict them with regards to the windows and shutters,
Well, they said they're gonna address them anyways.
if we force them to.
Well, it's conceptual. That's really the scale of the building and the massing. That tells you the negative spaces.
Yep.
And the box is the main thing we really need to focus on today. And right now, number 1 addresses the scale,
Yep.
scale of the building,
The height, yeah.
right? The massing is addressed by the window changes in the garage, because now we're going negative space, getting bigger, creating that depth. I think we're there. I mean, I think conceptually we're there. What I'm seeing is you got a building that needs some tweaks, but you got a building that's about ready to go to the next step. What I see. So I don't know if we have to tweak, get into the weeds too much deeper on the staff 10 comments. I think I agree with them.
Well, maybe it's time for somebody else to make a motion.
We've met Mr. Motion's limits. All right, do anybody else on the,
We'll be here for 30 minutes until.
I will make a motion to approve conceptual with staff comments.
Second.
sound like a clean motion? We have a second. Can we get a vote on that? We'll start with Kim again.
Aye.
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 All right, I hope that helped. I know it's painful, but I hope it helped. All right. We've got a couple more here. We're gonna move on to,
1201 North Street.
there you go, the First Presbyterian Church of Beaufort.
Oh,
Okay,
So 1201 North Street is the location of the First Presbyterian Church's Education and Outreach Building. It sits, as you can see here on the map, very prominently within the bluff, but also near the Old Commons neighborhood. Adjacent to this building are St. Helena's Cemetery, main church, parish buildings, as well as the First Presbyterian Church's main building to the south at the corner of North and Church. So it's a very prominent location within the historic district of Beaufort. It is also zoned T4HN, again, as you can see here. So the request, basically, if you look at the building now, within the pictures here, is to basically modify, upfit it. The architect has presented modifications on the interior and on the exterior. Today's meeting, we're going to focus more on the exterior modifications here. It's a 2.5-story building. It's in the process of being remodeled for different kinds of uses than originally planned for. This building has been built, altered. There was once upon a time an old church here in the mid-60s. So as of such, it's not considered contributing. So going into what is proposed is to, on the bottom, you see the purple shaded removals. So the current south elevation fronting North Street, the entrance, the main entrance is to be shifted to the southeast corner of this building. And basically a new entrance feature will be included, a more prominent opening, a two-story entrance that will go from the first to the story. As you can see here on the top, with that shifting of the main entrance to the more eastern section, that front porch walkway feature will be extended to the new entrance to serve as a handicap accessible walkway for parishioners that come in from the front parking lot. So it's a handicap accessible walkway to that new entrance feature there. So with that, with the shifting of the main entrance to the east, of course, that opens up spaces that will be basically filled in by windows that would match the current fenestration, the style on that south facade. And looking here, there's a 3D rendering that the architect, Mr. McClure, has provided us as well. It basically opens up that entire corner up to the building, and which is a very prominent corner. So you have the main church building, across from North Street, you have St. Anglican Church, on the other side of Church Street. So it's a very nice feature, and it will suit that location and building very well. Moving on to the east facade, currently you will encounter some stairways that will lead up to a second floor and a first floor double door egress that will both be actually removed. So no more entrances, no more stairs. That eastern facade, which is also facing Church Street, will be redesigned to include those kind of style windows that we see on the south facade. So 6 of those windows, I call them, I'm not even sure if they're ganged windows or not, but those 4/4 styled, larger style windows that we see on the south will be inserted here on the east as well. Moving to the rear facade of this existing education outreach building, all 14 existing windows are going to be replaced with the style, the 4/4 windows that would match the windows on the other facades that I just touched on. Also, there is, with the interior remodification of the floor plans on that 3rd level, 2.5-story level, whatever, underneath the roof, there's going to be a fellowship hall that will go in there. So in order to bring more light into that fellowship hall underneath the roof, they're proposing to include a shed dormer with 5 windows. That's a new feature, as well as then a new raised double door egress feature. So for security purposes, as an emergency exit, I would probably assume, with a staircase leading up to that. The west facade, not too many modifications planned here. The current door, single door egress there, that's kind of covered with the wraparound front porch from the south that comes, along to the west, will be eliminated and basically replaced with a window that would match the existing windows there. Integrity guidelines, basically all check out. I would say, the aesthetics of the modifications have been studied very carefully. And suit this very prominent historic location, not only because of where we are in the core of downtown with all the churches around. The setting, as I said, it basically, the material workmanship all in line. There's no discussion. I think it looks like staff agrees that we all think it looks very, very nice. It's a very nice improvement. For recommendations, there are some small recommendations that staff has. For instance, looking at the south facade, the front facade, our recommendation would be to maybe study ways how you could break up that maybe more corporate looking storefront a little more to make it appear less corporate. One of the other recommendations that our staff architects had is, if you look at my pointer, I'm trying to kind of point it out to you, with the shifting of the main entrance to the southeast, there's going to still be a small door feature. And the recommendation is to kind of to align the first floor window head with the horizontal mullion to create a transom look. So that transom look would basically continue from that door throughout the windows to that new feature, but that's a detail. Okay. Other recommendations that we have here for conceptual approval, basically with any other application presented, to provide material specification, cut sheets on the windows, the doors, the railings, columns, roofing, exterior lights, if there are any, ceiling fans, if there are any. The paint colors, I will let the applicant speak, but I'm assuming they will match the existing. Overall, the applicant to also provide typical building sections and details when it comes to, you know, the permitting, the administrative side of it, but that's standard as well. And that should be it for my staff presentation to you. If there are any questions.
Now, but thank you very much for the staff report on that project. If the applicant like to tell us anything that's different or add to it or embellish it, whatever you want to do.
I'll do my best to keep it brief. I'm Arnie McClure with Coast Architects. Good to be back in front of you. Reverend Dr. Patrick Perryman is here in the back, and Brad Brownell, Brad Brownell is the Pixon basketball coach. Brad Bowden is our Properties Committee Chair and is with me today to back me up. So if I don't know something, hopefully they do. Full disclosure, I am a member of the church, so I'm also sort of coming with two different carrying two different bags with me here today. The things I just kind of want to tell you how we got to where we got real quickly is, if you've ever been in this building, and my first experience was after joining, they're like, oh, there's a lunch in the fellowship hall. And I walk into the building on the main floor and I turn the corner assuming the fellowship hall is on the main floor, and it's not. And you're like, okay, where is it? It's actually down in the basement, which I would have never built the building anywhere in the Low Country with a basement, but this one has it. Luckily, we believe we are above the 13-foot minimum flood elevation, even in this basement. We're at 21, 22-foot elevation, nice high ground here. But after we started looking at, there's columns in this space, it's limited in ceiling height. And one of the things we came up with was, if we're going to have to go, and the building has low-bearing interior corridor walls, so sort of limited in what we can do. But we started discussing the possibility of flipping the building and moving the fellowship hall up to what is the second floor, 3 floors up from the basement, but the second floor. And because we have less structure, we have to deal with, less load to deal with that roof there. So we're actually looking at some roof redesign to be able to open up, have a little bit higher ceilings. We looked at a couple of different dormer options. You saw that shed dormer off the north side was actually what HTRC recommended out of 3 options that we looked at there. And so all of that being said, that also, we have one interior stair and then these exterior stairs that are on the east end of the building that are just metal stairs that look very utilitarian. And the entrance to the building is kind of, if you walk out the front of the sanctuary and turn left, you see the building, but the entrance to the building is then on down. You've got to go over, go through the parking lot, and get in. And we're like, isn't there a better way to get particularly kids when we move them from the church over to, say, like a children's church activity, if we could just get them straight in the building? So the idea of moving the stairs inside and creating a more welcoming entrance that's on the east end of the building was sort of the other driving factor for the designs you see. And then I won't go into lots of details. There are other photographs in your package that you can see of existing and new, but the storefront element, if you will, it would be constructed out of storefront, aluminum storefront system. But the circular window is actually a play on the circular window in the pediment of the sanctuary if you actually ever see one of our bulletins, it's got that's sort of our symbol for the church. And so the other idea was, because we're two separate buildings, just being able to have that identity to say, hey, that building belongs to the Presbyterian Church without a sign stuck in front of it saying that. So that was sort of the theme that we created there, was trying to tie those two together. So that's the main thing. We are just, for informational purposes, it's conceptual, but all the colors, the building's painted white. It has a nice cornice. We're saving all of that cornice and replicating it with any of the new stuff up on the top. The original building was built in the 60s and then modified in the mid-90s. So there was an addition on the west end, and that pediment, the porch with the 4 columns and that porch there, when the handicap ramp was added at that time. So we are keeping the handicap ramp, but extending that porch down so that we get access into the building. So that's kind of overview. Happy to ask questions as you discuss.
Great.
If you need me, you can call me back up. So,
Thank you. That was a great overview. Now totally understand what you're trying to do. Public comment period. Let's open that up and see if we have any comments. You know, you don't have to every day, but you can.
No, well, Lisa Sundalo, Stuart Beaufort Foundation. Arnie met with our Preservation Committee on Friday and went through all the details, but of course, we'd also been working with him through the HTRC, and I think this is really a very, very impressive project. The work that they have done just by kind of rethinking a visual entrance that will be significant is, I think, a brilliant way to look at it. And using the design from the Oculus, which we lovingly call the atomic sign, or the nuclear sign, nuclear family, we'll think of it that way. But also adding the shed, a roof across the top and the walkway. I think it all kind of brings the building together and gives what really was a very utilitarian building a lot more expression, and I think is representative of what their intent was, which was to bring attention to this older structure and reuse it in a way that works more efficiently for them as the church and community hall. So we're very supportive of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sundalo. Any other public comment? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to close the public comment period and bring it up to the board. We have one recusal, but this is conceptual on a major modification. What I didn't see in the notes is, does the building have any historic context to it? Is it contributing structure or non-contributing?
No.
Does anybody know that? It's non-contributing, okay. I couldn't find it in my notes. I was looking for that. And it makes sense that it's not. So what do you think?
Seems like a great project. I agree with everything that's been said.
I agree.
Yeah, I totally get why you're lining up that door to the right. I mean, every time I've gone by there and seen the church getting out and watching the migration of people in Agnell across the parking lot, stumbling over sidewalks and curbs, I'm thinking, wow, wouldn't it be nice if we had this little lane that gets you into the other building? And I haven't been in that basement in 25 years. I mean, that's 30 years.
Changed much.
And I bet. No, it's a great looking project and, I'm supportive of it. It sounds like the board is, so.
I think you did a really nice job updating it. I think that lot, that site right there, I think it's a great anchor for all the buildings around it in the corner. And I think the updating of this and the way that you did it and the landscape, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I have one question, we'll take a motion and close. Is the new additional parts in the same brick painted white, or is it gonna be a different material?
All be brick and painted.
The match, okay. That's it, only question.
Just one staff comment, since there seems to be a lot of love for this project. And we're just talking about like final details, I think Christopher and I were talking, would you consider just doing this as a final, with those being approved by staff, those, cut sheets, et cetera? Because I think everything that's being asked for is really just the final details.
I'm good
Do you
with
need to
that.
see it again? That's the question.
I'm good
So
with that.
you're asking if we want to go ahead and just give it a nod of approval for final?
That's right. That's right. So they don't have to come
And
back.
they would still need to provide you all the other details you normally ask for, right?
That's right.
Because it's got to get the permit, so you got to
right.
know what you're building.
Right.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that.
Anybody up here have a problem with that?
It seems so easy for this architect. I don't know why the other ones can't do this.
Well, how tall is this building, Arnie?
Oh, I just had to, it was
No,
teed up
that's-
so well. I just had.
That's an old development process. You get one come in and ask for the sky, the other one comes in and gets what they want. See, that's the.
I'm not fighting the Lord, I'll tell you that right.
All right, let's get back to business and get
All right.
the,
I'll make a motion to give final approval with staff recommendations.
I second that.
the motion is second. Well, why don't you go ahead and vote then?
Aye.
I'll support it.
All right.
Aye.
Kim supports it. Okay. One more.
Oh, we'll see you again. We'll see
Just
you.
let us know when you start construction. There's so many things going on in town and we gotta be able to tell the public something.
All right, one more.
One more. We have
Church Street.
Church Street something. I'm trying to find my agenda here. Fell off. 1006 Church Street, renovation rehab,
Yes, sir.
existing contributing structure.
The applicant present?
Online. Yes, sir.
And then I don't,
I'm here online.
okay, thank you. We hear you. Great. We'll get through this. Let's see what we got. Go ahead and let the staff introduce it to us. We'll get Mr. Woods back up here. You can go ahead and start.
Yes, sir. All right. So this project is 1006 Church Street. Jumping ahead real quick, we are going to be recommending final approval. They haven't been to the board before, but as kind of mentioned with the last project, we've worked with the applicant on this project a lot. So we feel comfortable recommending final. Of course, if the board feels differently, I think it's within your powers to recommend conceptual if you feel that way. This project it's 1006 Church Street. So I'll just go through the general info real quick on it. It's an existing 495 square foot cottage. So it's very small. And the applicant is requesting primarily two items: demolition of a rear portion of the cottage and replacing that partial demolition with living space. The zoning is T4HN. It is a contributing structure. It was built in 1910. The proposed demolition is not part of the original structure. It's a lean-to that was constructed around 1924. And the property is located in the northwest quadrant. So here you can see the location of the property as well as the street view of the existing building. It's in an X flood zone. The elevation is approximately 15 feet and 17 feet. So no issue with flood zone. The lot size is approximately 5,600 square feet. There's no issues with meeting or exceeding maximum lot coverages with this proposal. And so just going through the background of of the applicant working with staff. So the applicant's been to 3 HTRC meetings, as well as staff met with the applicant on site at 10,000 or at 1006 Church Street. And that was in between the first and second HTRC meetings. Again, this was just to get eyes on the actual structure, analyze the conditions of the proposed demolition of that rear lean-to, seeing if demolition was justifiable. And so here's the historic inventory info. Getting into the partial demolition aspect, the applicant actually provided some very nice slides here that we'll run through. They're also in your packet, of course. So these are the existing conditions of the lean-to. I won't speak on these too much. If there's specific questions on it, we can go through them. But as you can kind of see an overview, staff, we feel that overall the condition it's in a pretty dilapidated state. Overall, we are supportive of the demolition of this lean-to. So here's just kind of, again, our analysis of the demolition. So the proposed square footage that's being proposed to be demolished is 230 square feet. Again, we think it's pretty much in an unsalvageable condition. The height of the lean-to is only 6 foot 7 inches, which is not livable in my opinion. So again, we support the demolition there. As you can see, the site plan, kind of what it looks like. If there's any questions on that, we can get into it, but otherwise we can move on into the addition that would replace the lean-to. So if it does get approved for demolition, the existing cottage will be 265 square feet. The new addition is proposing an additional 896 square feet of living space for a combined under beam or total, roofed area for 1,161 square feet cottage. So again, our analysis, this layout is ultimately, the result of many HTRC meetings, the on-site visits between staff and the applicant. We believe that the addition is nicely concealed behind the historic front portion of the home. The materials and roof forms integrate appropriately into the main house. And yeah, staff supports the 896 square foot additional living space added to the house, as again, it'll bring the house to a livable standard while still being appropriate in size and scale to the surrounding environment. So the integrity guidelines and rationales, here's also the site plan of what the proposed addition or new structure would look like. But as far as integrity guidelines, we think it does meet all of them. If there's any specific questions, we can go over it. But our staff recommendation is to recommend final approval. We do have a couple comments. They're pretty minor architectural comments. The first one is, just noting and just kind of restating for the applicant to salvage or reuse as much wood siding as possible. And actually, I think the applicant has comments regarding these. I think a lot of these have already been addressed, but I'll just quickly run through them again. Number 2 is, just recommending the applicant move the top post as shown on the stair details drawing on page 6 or sheet A205. I don't have the slide for that, unfortunately, but it's just a little minor detail that looks unaligned on there. So just kind of aligning it proper with the outside face of the pier below would be good to see. Number 3 is just for the applicant to clarify the use of a 6x8 inch wood column as shown in the column and rail details drawing on that same sheet A205 and also noted in A204. Staff believes a 6x6 inch column would be a more traditional size. The 4th comment or recommendation is just for the applicant to submit any cut sheets for exterior fans and light fixtures. 5th is just to show the location of any HVAC service yards. And the 6th is just for the applicant to know if any other site-related items such as paving or fencing is part of the proposal and to provide to staff for further review if that's the case. But other than that, that is all I have.
Thank you for that report. We'll now open it to the applicant. Ma'am, if you'd like to comment anything he said, if he said something wrong, let us know. If you want to add to it, please let us know.
Hey, no, he got it pretty good. I already submitted another set of drawings that took into account all of the items that were called out. So changed the detail, for that that front post to align with the face of the pier. Changed the rear column to a 6x6. Also simplified a few of the details. We will try to reuse as much as the siding as we can, and I indicated on an updated site plan where we're gonna put the condenser. It's gonna be hidden behind. The only other thing I'll mention is that we intend to raise this existing cottage up about another 18 inches, so that will be fun to watch. The foundation under the existing cottage it's extremely low crawl space, so we can't even access it to do any repairs. And so we're going to raise it up, have a new foundation, pier and beam foundation, and then we're going to set it back down. Pretty much everything else I think is in there. With the city was really awesome to work with, and I mean, personally think we came up with a really great design solution. That's all I got.
Okay, I'm sure we'll have some more questions for you after we get through public comment and open it to the board. So if that's the last comment from you at the moment, that's great. We'll move on. So let's open the floor to public comment.
I enjoy these intimate moments that we have every month. So, hello, Miss Marcy.
Hello.
Hello. She has been working, actually, started with Historic Beaufort Foundation and then went through the process with HTRC and to here. And I think it's been a great journey for her. She's based out of New Orleans and has a preservation background, is an architect herself, and is the one who's doing the work. And so she came with a great deal of knowledge and a great deal of love for the historic district and wanting to do something right in the community. And she was very receptive to the suggestions and recommendations along the way. And I think it's ended up being a very successful project. Once again, taking one of those buildings that otherwise would just deteriorate, within our district and bringing it back to life. So we're in support of staff comments. We're in support of this project and look forward to it coming to fruition.
Great, thank you. Any other public comment? We'll close the public comment period and have a discussion. And I know the applicant already answered the question I had, is I know that building and you're going to have to lift it in order to do anything. They're already going to do that. So if their plan includes lifting it to a height that matches what they need for the rear addition they're going to do and get a new foundation and pier system throughout the back, that'd be most appropriate for this building. It's been swallowed up by the earth. It sits about 10 inches off the ground. You can't get under it. It's actually one of those buildings that probably could have come down years ago, and it's been nursed to help many times by several different owners and defies logic. That's still standing, but looks like they've carved out a unique design to make that front facade fit to a more habitable space. And so I'm in supportive of it. Comments from board?
I think it looks great. I think the addition is very sensitive to the historic cottage, which is awesome. The only thing I really am questioning is the raincoat colored porch.
That was my question.
Good.
My yellow floor.
Yeah.
I'm not wedded to it. We can get rid of it if you want. It currently is yellow. That's all I was going to keep it just for posterity.
Yeah, I think the reality is you'll learn real quickly in our climate here, that's not going to stay yellow long. So you might want to consider.
Maybe during the spring when all the pollen drops.
Yeah, every March.
Okay, I'm fine with it. I can pick another like basic color. That's fine. It's currently yellow. I don't know if y'all know the cottage well, but I'm fine to change it.
We're not going to hold you to the yellow, I don't think, or not, but
Okay.
I think we're a little concerned. I mean, the color scheme needs to fit traditional. That I would tell you, I think I spoke to you a long time ago. I don't know when you bought the house, but what happened over time, one of the buyers bought that house and basically rebuilt it without any process. And
Yeah, when I was doing demo, I figured that out pretty quick.
So they basically did it without permitting and anything. In fact, I think they even got the power turned on without any city inspection. So it's it was a very problematic building at the beginning. They put it back together enough to live in it and actually lived in it and then tried to rent it for a while, but at least they saved it. So, and we're very appreciative of someone like you taking a hold of it. And I'm sure the journey will be interesting and you'll have a good time and we hope to see you work your way through, get it done.
It'll improve the block for sure.
Yeah, where are we at then? So we've got one asking for final. That means staff work with them enough, think they can get the data they need to get the new addition, because that's really bigger than what we see in this front part. There's more work going on back there than there is
Yeah.
with this, even though there's a lot of work with that front to get it right.
I think a lot of work's been done to make this a great project. I'm in supportive of it.
I'm to the lot size.
Yep.
Is
All right,
fine.
I'm not hearing any pushback, and we probably can go ahead and move this one out.
Well, then I'll make a motion to approve as stated.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. It sounds like, at least you're at home waiting and didn't have to sit in the audience here all day, but,
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. And I am really excited, and I'll make sure everyone knows when we lift that thing off the ground so everyone can come with their lawn chairs and watch it happen.
all right, did we vote on that one yet?
Yeah.
All right, let's get a,
Aye.
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 I,
okay, so now we're official. Before we adjourn, let's, make sure I haven't seen everybody in a while, but anything from staff related to training, experience,
I think if
factors?
you just all like to team up on Mr. Woods to get him to reapply, that would be, so-
Oh, it is the next to the last one.
Next one. Next one.
Well, remember, you serve until reappointed, not just because you decide to.
All right, well, that's fair. And I will continue to serve until they replace me.
Okay. All right.
Sounds
Well,
good.
if you can do that, it'd be great. But especially, I mean, if we end up with agendas and we need a forum, we got to make sure. Just stay in contact. If you're busy and can't do it, obviously let them know. I know I'm busy and I will miss a couple meetings, I'm sure in the future. I'm trying to figure it out until.
We may conspire with city council to never find an appointment for you,
Yeah.
so that you're just stuck.
Well, I'm hoping maybe he will run for city council.
That would be good. That'd be great.
He's done his civic duty. I don't know if he want to step in that.
Meeting last night. I'm not sure.
Oh, my God. But I wish I'd have had popcorn for that meeting.
All right.
But several of us went to that training in Columbia, and I think we learned some things. I thought what Charleston had to present on what they were going through, some of the concessions they were having to make on building materials and stuff. I think we found that very interesting. I don't know, what about you guys? Do you want to share anything that, other than I know ever since Eric showed up, they know Beaufort.
I have some more contentious views that I'm not going to share.
Okay.
I thought it was great, and thank you for sending
Yes,
us.
thank you for letting and paying for us to go.
It was nice.
I did think it was educational. It was good. And
Yeah.
your point about Charleston was helpful to see what they're going through.
Yeah,
And I asked the most important question that day.
tell them what you asked.
I'm just kidding.
Tell them what you asked.
I don't even remember. I think I blacked out and then went home.
All right, awesome. All right, well, unless staff has anything directive for us, I think, make a motion to adjourn. Adjourned. Julie, you still recycling?